Okay. Good morning, everyone. Andrew Douglas in the Action News 5 Digital Desk. Did you go outside yesterday? Did you experience some of these awesome weather conditions? Beautiful spring weather. Check this out. Another gorgeous day ahead. It's 52 degrees at 8:01 as you see our live picture from downtown Memphis. Beautiful skies, just very little clouds, if any, and you can see lots of sunshine today. It's going to be this way for the majority of the day. In fact, it's going to warm up to near 80 degrees today. Again, only in the low 50s right now in Midtown Memphis. This is another shot from our Midtown High 5 camera. We have lots of sunshine today. There's not going to be any issues when it comes to rain until the latter part of the week. Spencer Denton has details.
A wonderful spring day ahead as temperatures will soar toward 80 degrees this afternoon. A southwest breeze at about 10 to 15 miles per hour. All that sunshine is going to stick around again tomorrow as well. Let's show you what's happening, though. Toward the end of the week, we have a cold front that's going to move in. Ahead of it, it stays warm each afternoon for a good portion of the eastern half of the country. Scattered showers and storms, though, will develop along this front Thursday afternoon and then push east Thursday night. So we could see a strong or severe storm or two either Thursday night or again Friday evening as the main system pushes through. Behind that system, we're going to see maybe a lingering shower early Saturday morning, but much cooler air filters in just in time for the weekend. So it's going to drop pretty big time as far as those temperatures are concerned Saturday and Sunday. But we do have a slight risk for a few severe storms Thursday night and mainly in Arkansas. It's a marginal risk for parts of West Tennessee, Northwest Mississippi. Damaging wind, hail, those are the main threats as we go into Thursday night. Let's take you through the exact timing hour by hour in Futurecast. This is a closer in view, and you can see those scattered showers and storms coming through between 9 p.m. and 6 a.m. early Friday morning, and then off and on through the day Friday, especially east of Memphis. It gets a little heavier Friday night just to the east with that main line coming on through, and then finally pushes out. But I think those clouds are going to linger for much of the day on Saturday. We're talking about 1 to 2 inches of rain. So a pretty big dose of rainfall with this system, so that may be one of the bigger issues that we see. We'll keep you posted, though, as always, on the Action News 5 First Alert weather app. You can track the rain and thunderstorms on the radar throughout the day Thursday and Friday. As we go into the weekend, we're looking at temperatures dropping into the 60s, so almost a 20-degree drop in temperatures for the weekend. Some sun may finally pop out on Sunday, but Saturday looks awfully cool. In fact, that high may actually only hit the upper 50s to low 60s. And as we take a look at the First Alert 7-day forecast, we've got that 80% chance for showers and thunderstorms on Friday, and then next week we'll start to warm up again as we head toward Monday.
All right, an important change in Tennessee's permitless carry law. 18, 19, 20-year-olds can now carry a handgun without having to take any training. Joyce Peterson explains why the age limit changed and without a permit was lowered. Take a look.
That makes absolutely no sense.
As a mother to 2-year-old Ivan and a retired member of the U.S. Army, Ebony Anderson does not think Tennesseans ages 18 to 20 should be able to carry a gun without having to get a permit.
I'm a veteran, and I know that you need to know how to properly clean a gun, properly load a magazine, how to carry, to properly store it, things of that nature.
Asmarom Gabermichan moved here from Ethiopia back in 1983. Memphis was much safer than it is today, he says, and he's no fan of lowering permitless carry to 18.
That's not good, you see, because they are not smart enough. 18, 20 is, they got a long way to go.
When Tennessee passed the permitless carry law in 2021, it applied only to those 21 and up or retired military 18 and up. A California firearms group sued the state, saying it was unconstitutional not to give all 18 to 20-year-olds the same right to bear arms without a permit. Tennessee Attorney General Jonathan Skrmetti agreed and settled the suit, which was approved by a judge March 27th of this year. The thought of 18-year-olds packing heat without any training doesn't sit well with local attorney Lanier Fogg or longtime Memphis journalist John Branston.
Particularly considering their lack of maturity and particularly considering all of the influences they have on their life. I just don't think it's a good idea.
I remember when it was hard to buy a beer at 18 or a pack of cigarettes. Not that I smoked, but I certainly tried to buy beer. And it seems like they could enforce a handgun restriction.
And Ebony Anderson is left to wonder if local, state, and federal leaders are allowing looser gun laws to keep communities safer or to push them over the edge.
It is the 16, 17, 18, 19-year-olds killing, shooting, wreaking havoc. And y'all just saying, go ahead, lay it on the silver platter. Y'all go kill yourselves. We're aware of this. I can only hope that the younger generations is aware that, okay, they're giving us the guns because they want us to kill each other.
Okay, so the Memphis Police Department is pausing a new program meant to curb car break-ins in the downtown area. This is supposed to target juveniles in downtown because juvenile crime is up dramatically. The Juvenile Crime Abatement Program, it's apparently making it illegal for a minor to be downtown without adult supervision. Walter Murphy has more.
We've reached out to the city and they've agreed to pause that program for now.
President of the Downtown Memphis Commission, Paul Young, says the program is paused, at least until discussion can be expanded and details hammered out, with more community input in mind. But Young does think crime downtown has gotten out of hand, especially when it comes to car break-ins and thefts.
A lot of these crimes are committed by juveniles.
What would, just a guess, would you say your percentage are repeat offenders?
My guess would be at least 70%.
The Memphis Police Department say a big chunk of those crimes are committed by kids, and they're doing it over and over again.
So much crime going on right now with these children, breaking in vehicles and homes, unsupervised, parents don't know where they're at. So I think it will be a good idea.
Memphis moms like Sharita Brown say that they hope MPD makes the stakes a little higher and hold parents accountable with jail time if their children become repeat offenders of the new program's rules, if and when it goes into effect.
There's a lot going on with, children that's not supervised around the area. I think that'll cut down a lot of crime, me personally.
Okay, so there is a statement that we'd like to get to here. Let's see if I can find it. Let's see, a statement with regards to this. Let me just read it to you. It says, as part of the summer plan, Memphis Police will enforce the current curfew ordinance. To avoid encounters with police, we encourage parents to always monitor the whereabouts of their children to ensure the safety. There it is. The statement mentions a summer plan. It's unclear now whether the potential program will be seasonal or year-round. We'll keep asking, let you know what happens as soon as information becomes available here. Tennessee House lawmakers approved a bill that would allow 16-year-olds to be tried as adults for escaping from a youth development center like the Wilder Youth Development Center in Fayette County. The bill now heads to the governor's office. Civil lawsuit expected to be filed over the death of Tyre Nichols in Memphis police custody. Tomorrow, the Nichols family announced that their attorneys will file the suit against the city of Memphis, the Memphis Police Department, and individual officers. We all know that Tyre Nichols was stopped by members of the Memphis Police Scorpion Unit January 7th. He died 3 days later. We will let you know as we get more details and information regarding this announcement of a lawsuit. Okay, so more cars and trucks are driving with their headlights and taillights off at night. In fact, you might be one of those drivers and don't even realize it. We have our national investigative team looking into this, and Brendan Keith found out why there are so many lights out on the road right now. Take a look.
When the sun goes down and the lights come up, the brightest objects compete for our attention. But the greatest danger is what's lurking in the shadows. Do you see it? Look closer. No headlights.
Driving in the wrong lane and without headlights. Sitting on the interstate with no headlights on.
Across the nation.
A vehicle with the headlights out.
The truck didn't have its headlights on.
Phantom vehicles are causing crashes and taking lives. Why are we seeing more phantom vehicles now? It turns out the answer has been right under our noses this entire time. The modern instrument panel. It's always on, even when the headlights are off. Night or day, day or night. The gauge cluster and radio are always lit in car after car after car after car, manufactured in the last 10 years. Combined with the daytime running lamps, there are now multiple visual cues that the lights are on, even though the headlights and taillights are dark. Before dashboards went digital, analog gauges stayed dark when the headlights were off. Not anymore.
Most of our vehicles have technology where the headlights are automatically on as a default when you start up the vehicle.
Frank Weissman is with Atlanta-based Porsche North America.
Headlights are on through the auto function. I can actively turn them off here, get the little message that I've done that, but as soon as I move off again, or above 6 miles an hour, headlights and taillights come back on.
So even if the driver turns the headlights off, they will come back on automatically while they're driving?
Correct. And then if you wanted to turn them off while you're driving, you can't. And I can't turn them off even if I wanted to.
Porsche now installs these headlights on every new vehicle that has an always-on dashboard. Is there ever a time where there are headlights on but there are no taillights on?
On these newer vehicles, no.
And now it's the law in Canada. All new cars sold since last fall must have taillights that come on with the daytime running lamps, or a dashboard that goes dark when the lights are off, or auto headlights on by default. Many new cars now sold in the U.S. were designed to meet the new Canadian standards. This is a new Ford. Turn the lights off, and the next time you start the car, the headlights default back to auto. New GMs have a spring switch, flipping back to auto when you restart the car.
So what we're getting the benefit of is essentially German engineering and Canadian regulation.
But the average car currently on our highways is more than 12 years old, which means we'll have to be on the lookout for phantom vehicles for another decade or so.
All right, let's talk about TikTok for a minute here. University of Memphis has banned access on its campus through its Wi-Fi system. Students, faculty, and staff can access it on their own personal networks, third-party networks, that sort of thing. So law enforcement will be able to use restricted platforms for investigative purposes, that sort of thing. Okay, Andrew Douglas back here in the Action News 5 Digital Desk. It is so important to call before you dig when doing any kind of project, whether it's a do-it-yourself or major construction, because not only are there some dangers involved, but there's some major damage that you could do to underground utilities and what have you. Let's bring in Sarah Magruder-Lyle, President and CEO of Common Ground Alliance. Sarah, good morning. How are you?
Great. I'm well. Thank you so much for having me.
Tell me about Common Ground Alliance. What is that exactly?
The Common Ground Alliance is a nonprofit association dedicated to protecting underground utilities that deliver us critical services we depend on every day and making sure that those who live and work around those critical utilities are safe.
Okay, and we understand that damages to underground utilities cost an estimated $30 billion each and every year. That's incredible. Why should homeowners or contractors have their utility lines marked? I mean, I'm thinking about the utilities underground in my neighborhood. I don't know if they're marked or not. What can we do as homeowners, as people involved in our neighborhood to make sure that it's safe?
Well, keeping everybody safe is certainly a shared responsibility. And whenever you're doing work on your own property, or even if you're hiring a contractor to do work on your property, you should always make sure that you are contacting 811 or that you have a conversation with your contractor to ensure that they are calling 811 a few days prior to digging. In Tennessee, you're supposed to call at least 3 working days prior to digging. And I know that Tennessee 811 stands ready to help those diggers, be it DIYers or professional contractors, ensure that they're safe on their dig site.
Okay, and let's talk about the danger of damaging a utility line. I know that the dangers can run the gamut. It can be very dangerous out there.
That's correct. And you know, that $30 billion number is significant, and that is a conservative estimate. So, you know, when you hit an underground facility, it could be something as inconvenient as disrupting the internet to your own home, to something as catastrophic as hitting a gas line and causing a fire or an explosion that damages property or causes a fatality. So as you noted, they do run the gamut. But that's all the more reason that we want to make sure we contact 811 a few days prior to digging to make sure that we stay safe.
So we know that there are so many do-it-yourself warriors that like to go out on the weekend, kind of do things, maybe dig in the ground. What's the best way to get that information out there if you're doing something, you're doing a project, you're going to be digging, just so that you're safe and you don't cause any disruptions?
Well, you know, it's interesting that you bring up those that are doing work, doing home improvement and DIY projects, because almost 35 million homeowners said that they were going to take on a digging project without contacting 811, and this is according to our most recent survey. So we need to make sure that we get the word out to all homeowners and all DIYers that calling 811 a few days prior to digging is critically important.
I mean, that's how it is. You know, it's like, I remember all that stuff.
Or you can visit your local 811
no time
center
off, and then you spend it all.
And you can find out all the specifics about the digging process and what your state requires by going to 811beforeyoudig.com.
811. Okay, that's getting out of that's town. A big one. That sounds like that's the resource where people can really go and just get any and all information about this topic. Anything else you want to mention to our viewers right now?
Just remember, it's not worth the risk. Whether you're digging a few inches or a few feet, you should always contact 811 a few days prior to digging to make sure you keep you and your family and your community safe and connected.
They are.
Okay, great advice, Sarah Magruder-Lyle. We appreciate you and the Common Ground Alliance for all the hard work you do. Thanks very much.
And that was the one thing.
Thanks for having me.
Out of all the teams.
Okay, Andrew Douglas back here in the Action News 5 digital desk. I want to go now to one of our friends who gives us such great knowledge when it comes to getting a job, looking at the job market, resume help. Angela Copeland, she's vice president of Recruiter.com. Angela, good morning. How are you?
You have to respect.
Hey, thank you for having me.
No, I appreciate you making time for us.
His accomplishment,
because it is such a workers market out there. Employees really have a lot of options right now beginning in 2022, and we want to talk about resumes and the best way to let your resume kind of speak for yourself, stand out, and some of the mistakes that people make out there. But let's begin with making that resume stand out, Angela.
Big, dude.
Well, this is such an exciting time to be looking for a job, but the thing that you need first is you need a resume. So even if you don't need a job today, but you're thinking sometime in the next few months, get started and have one ready. I think that is the first mistake that people make, is that they wait until someone says to me, email me your resume, and then they've got to start from scratch, and it's just like a total panic trying to get it together.
You can't count what that guy did.
Yes, absolutely.
Not only that,
no
but,
question.
he's led the league in offensive
once you
rebounds,
get that resume
the last several
developed,
years,
what are some ways, I guess, that you could enhance
amazing
that resume?
Screens? And
sure, absolutely. I think the very first thing is you should do the resume yourself. Very often, people want to hire someone to write their resume for them. It's it's a very attractive option, right? Because it's kind of a pain. You're shoving years of experience into 1 or 2 pages, and that's what I would suggest is 1 whole page or 2 whole pages.
They play perimeter
but
defense.
I've noticed that when people hire out their resume writing, sometimes there will be errors in it. So you really want to write your own resume. You want to pay very specific attention to things like spelling, because if you do have spelling errors, there's a chance they will just kick you right out. I would also think about the fact that a lot of hiring managers or HR professionals, they will read what is at the top of the first page first. And so really focus your energy on making that portion of your resume look good. Also, if there's a particular job you're applying to, closely read the job description and make sure that anything that's mentioned in the job description that you know how to do is also included in your resume. So the words that are in your resume are just as important as the actual sort of format and look and feel. I mean, it's like you wouldn't show up to an interview in shorts and flip-flops the same way that you want your resume to actually look polished and like you've put some work into it.
What are your thoughts, Angela, on cover letters?
This is such an interesting question. It's very controversial. A lot of people want to say that cover letters are no longer a thing. But I will tell you, when you're applying for a job, if there are 2 equally qualified candidates, of course, they're both going to have a resume. And if one has a cover letter, that one will be given special treatment. And in other words, the cover letter is a chance to really explain why you're a good fit for the job. And that's your chance to sell yourself, because when a hiring manager or a recruiter read through your resume, they're sort of figuring out why you're a good fit. Like they're having to piece it together, but the cover letter is your chance to really explain it to them. So I would take the time to do a cover letter. You want to explain why you're interested in the job, why you're a good fit, and summarize some of your background. So you will be repeating some of the things that are on your resume on your cover letter.
For the training. Okay. I don't know who great else
advice
there.
I just know
for the mornings.
Are there,
and you mentioned, making sure that you do the resume
all on our
yourself,
shoulders.
so you get a nice, accurate depiction for that prospective employer.
Yes.
Are there any structures out there? Word. Do they have any advantages when it comes to building that resume? Is there any place you can go to really kind of use, I don't know, some software?
It's a good question. So the way that your resume looks, I really think it depends on the industry that you work in. If you work in a traditional industry like engineering, I would go with a much more straightforward look to your resume, like a more old-fashioned look. If you work in sort of a hip industry like marketing or possibly sales, I would look for something that's more stylized. So Microsoft Word does have templates. Interestingly enough, the website Etsy.com also sells resume templates that are really quite stylized and nice if you're working in marketing, for example. So there are places that you can look for these stylized, resume formats, but I would not use them unless you're working in an industry that is especially sort of hip and cool.
So on one of the websites, and I'm just looking here, my producer and I were checking this out, it mentioned something about the possibility of maybe adding hobbies or interests in a section on your resume, just to kind of, go with that work culture that a lot of corporations and a lot of different offices are going towards. What are your thoughts on maybe putting interests and hobbies on that resume?
It's a good question. There have been times in my own career where I have included hobbies and interests, and there have been times where I've absolutely left them off. So I would say it really is a case-by-case basis. I would think about why you're adding them. So for me, I started out, my undergrad is computer and systems engineering. I started out as a computer programmer. And when I was trying to get employers to see me as more than someone who writes computer code, I started including hobbies. But of course, I picked hobbies that were interesting, like travel, that could get a conversation going. Another potential place to include hobbies is if you're looking to transition away from your current industry, and if in some way your hobby aligns to the industry that you want to move into. So it's both really, am I trying to get an employer to just see me differently, or am I trying to get an employer to understand how I might fit into their industry?
Excellent, excellent. Now, there's something else when it comes to follow-up, because a lot of us, want to hear right back, right away, on demand. What's the employer? Are they interested? What do they think of this? What are your guidelines for following up after you send your resume?
That's a good question. I would say if you know who to contact, feel free to send them an email. Or if you've had an interview, send them a thank you email afterward. And, every, say, 2 weeks or so, it's appropriate to send a follow-up email. I would not send too many because you may be sort of labeled as sort of difficult or annoying, but you do need to get an answer. I would say don't assume that you will get a job, no matter how qualified you are for it. If you really need a new job, keep looking until a company actually gives you an offer, because anything could happen. Like, for example, they could put the position on hold completely, or the hiring manager could leave the company and they could decide not to hire the position, or they could decide to hire in the future. So just keep looking until you actually have a job offer in hand.
Okay, let's talk now about some of the mistakes that people make on those resumes. We've talked about the enhancements, now things that are completely wrong.
There are a number of things that people can really work on their resumes. One of the big ones I would say is look at the email address that you're using on your resume. So a lot of folks like to use email addresses like AOL. And what that communicates to the employer is that you're a bit out of date in terms of technology, and you don't want that being the thing that you're communicating. So look for something like a Gmail email address that would be a good fit. You also, when it comes to email address, you want to use an email address that is related to your name. So not a hobby, not like horseback rider at AOL.com. And you also don't want to include anything in that email address that is an indication of your age. So many people will put their birth year in their email address or the year they graduated from high school. You want to steer clear of any of that information. I would leave off a photo. Do not include a photo of yourself on your resume. That is done in some countries, but in the US, people do not include photos on their resume. It's an unusual thing to do. So those are a couple of areas that I would start with. Again, keeping things honest and consistent. So look for errors that are spelling errors, but also make sure that you're not fibbing, because it could get back to your previous employer, and that's not how you want to start out with any new job.
Okay, so we got the resume all situated, all nice and pretty for everybody. Then you have to do something about your social media, right? Because a lot of times when we'll hear somebody or we'll meet somebody, they'll immediately go and see if they can find them on social media, and you want to make sure that's legitimate, right?
Well, so yes, it's interesting because, 20 years ago, this was sort of a non-issue, but we've all been posting for the last so many years on Facebook, for example. And so there's a huge history of information available about us on the internet. If you are starting to launch a real job search and you're starting to have interviews, I would go in and at a bare minimum, I'd look at your privacy settings. Look and see what could someone see on your Facebook, on your Twitter, on your Instagram if they were not friends with you. Because you want to be sure that anything public really represents the brand that you're putting forward in the job interview. I do think this is a real issue. Many times you talk to job seekers and they assume that a company would never Google you and would never look things up about you, but they do. They really do. So you want to do it first and make sure that what's out there really represents you in the best way possible.
Okay, Angela, all great advice.
I'm not sure I
very
understand.
effective here. Can we, anything else you want to mention before we let you go regarding resumes, do's, don'ts, anything?
I think the biggest thing is get started now. This is such an exciting time to be looking for a job, as you mentioned. And the last thing you want is to really be caught behind the 8 ball, so to speak. So update your resume. Keep things quiet, but ask a close friend to proofread your resume for you, because they will find errors that you may have missed.
All right, Angela Copeland, Vice President, Recruiter.com. Great advice. We appreciate it very much. And thanks so much. Look forward to talking to you again soon.
Thank you.
A wonderful spring day ahead as temperatures will soar toward 80 degrees this afternoon. A southwest breeze at about 10 to 15 miles per hour. All that sunshine is going to stick around again tomorrow as well. Let's show you what's happening, though. Toward the end of the week, we have a cold front that's going to move in. Ahead of it, it stays warm each afternoon for a good portion of the eastern half of the country. Scattered showers and storms, though, will develop along this front Thursday afternoon and then push east Thursday night. So we could see a strong or severe storm or two either Thursday night or again Friday evening as the main system pushes through. Behind that system, we're going to see maybe a lingering shower early Saturday morning, but much cooler air filters in just in time for the weekend. So it's going to drop pretty big time as far as those temperatures are concerned Saturday and Sunday. But we do have a slight risk for a few severe storms Thursday night and mainly in Arkansas. It's a marginal risk for parts of West Tennessee, Northwest Mississippi. Damaging wind, hail, those are the main threats as we go into Thursday night. Let's take you through the exact timing hour by hour in Futurecast. This is a closer in view, and you can see those scattered showers and storms coming through between 9 p.m. and 6 a.m. early Friday morning, and then off and on through the day Friday, especially east of Memphis. It gets a little heavier Friday night just to the east with that main line coming on through, and then finally pushes out. But I think those clouds are going to linger for much of the day on Saturday. We're talking about 1 to 2 inches of rain. So a pretty big dose of rainfall with this system, so that may be one of the bigger issues that we see. We'll keep you posted, though, as always, on the Action News 5 First Alert weather app. You can track the rain and thunderstorms on the radar throughout the day Thursday and Friday. As we go into the weekend, we're looking at temperatures dropping into the 60s, so almost a 20-degree drop in temperatures for the weekend. Some sun may finally pop out on Sunday, but Saturday looks awfully cool. In fact, that high may actually only hit the upper 50s to low 60s. And as we take a look at the First Alert 7-day forecast, we've got that 80% chance for showers and thunderstorms on Friday. And then next week, we'll start to warm up again as we head toward Monday.
Cyber criminals are targeting you in higher numbers through your cell phone or desktop using something called Banking Trojan. Now that sounds scary. Primarily, it's there to steal usernames, passwords you enter online while shopping. Rachel DePompa finds out how to protect yourself. Check it out.
Banking Trojan attacks doubled in 2022. Cybersecurity company Kaspersky says it prevented nearly 20 million of these attacks last year. Now, a Banking Trojan is a widely used tool by cyber criminals to steal important information, usernames and passwords that you store or plug into websites while online shopping. You end up with the malware on your computer or phone by accidentally clicking on a link. Then, as you plug in your credit card number, 3-digit security code, and expiration date on a website, the Banking Trojan is running in the background and steals that information.
That sort of information can be all collected, and it might be reused right away to, say, drain your account, or it may be sold in the dark web so that somebody else could clone a credit card and start using a card in your name.
There are multiple ways to end up with a Banking Trojan on your system. Like I mentioned, clicking on a link. You could even download a video game and get it. That's why Kurt Baumgartner with Kaspersky says install and download games and other software from their official sites, which also means that you might have to pay for them.
Protecting your system with a reliable security solution. Usually, most packages are able to identify when something is being dropped or something surreptitiously is running in the background, watching for you to enter this information.
He also says keep an eye on your financial activity, check your bank accounts, and make sure you are charged the correct amount for online purchases. Use a unique password for every site you interact with, and while shopping online, he says, using a credit card gives you just a little bit more security than using a debit card. With this, watching your wallet, I'm Rachel DePompa.
Okay, Tom Lee Park is apparently 80% complete. They plan to halt construction for Memphis in May, then finish the park afterwards. Grand opening is planned for Labor Day weekend, and so right now that is still the schedule. Grizz Nation not in a good space today when it comes to Ja Morant. During the fourth quarter here, Ja was forced to leave the game. Anthony Davis, he came down hard on his wrist. You see it there in slow motion. His status for game 2 is up in the air.
What a turn. Coach said that the x-rays were negative, so that's some good news. Any doubt in your mind you're going to be able to play Wednesday night in game 2?
Yeah.
There is a jeopardy, you think?
Yeah.
Yep, that's what it is. So the Grizzlies and the Lakers, they'll tip it off. Game 2 against LeBron and the Lakers. That's tomorrow night, 6:30 FedEx Forum. Keep in mind, Tyus Jones, backup point guard, has played plenty of games successfully with the team winning throughout the regular season. So very capable backup point guard here. Let's talk about some good news of late with the Grizzlies. Jaren Jackson Jr. named the NBA Defensive Player of the Year. It's well-deserved. He blocked 189 shots during the regular season. He just played in only 63 games, I should say. It's an average of 3 blocks every game. Best in the NBA. He won it. Second time the Grizzlies won it. The first time was Marc Gasol.
It means a lot. Like, I'm bringing it home to an organization who's adding another Defensive Player of the Year to their belt. And, you know, I'm doing it for a lot of reasons. So it's not going to sink in right now. It'll probably sink in the summer because now I just got to get ready for game 2 because we play in a couple of days. So that's really what you're focused on right now.
Yes, the right answer, Jaren. Totally. All right. So the best part, of course, seeing him happy and very appreciative when he found out. Take a listen to his mom when she found out.
Winner of the Kia NBA Defensive Player of the Year is Jaren Jackson.
She yelling out big congratulations there. Jaron's mom, very proud, and she should be, because that is quite a major accomplishment. Great to see. One of the most beautiful and historic mansions in Memphis is going to be on the auction block this week. The Annisdale Mansion, the focal point of a historic neighborhood near Lamar and Bellevue. Joe Birch has details.
Go inside the Annisdale Snowden Mansion and see opulence, magnificent staircases, chandeliers, and Memphis history dating to 1855.
All of the houses are covered by the historic standards except for the mansion.
The most historic house in the block.
Yes.
Tim Prudhomme serves as Neighborhood Association president. Many homes have signs, Save the Annisdale Mansion, which will be auctioned on Thursday.
Well, I'm going to be honest, we're nervous about it.
Neighborhood Association Vice President Nick Weaver fears a developer might buy the 7-acre property and build apartments where the mansion now stands.
And also to be liable to be torn down. And that's something we absolutely do not want here in the neighborhood.
I say rest easy. Nobody's tearing that down.
Ken Robeson bought the mansion in 2010 when he says it was in disrepair. Robeson says he's invested every dollar generated by the popular wedding and reception venue into restoring the mansion to its former glory.
I've tried to find the right buyer, somebody that will come in and just cherish it like I did. And I've been unsuccessful, so we're going to try the auction route and hope it brings the right one.
Robeson says some families have shown interest in buying the mansion as their family home. But another scenario would have a developer build a 55-plus senior community on the 7 acres while maintaining the mansion as a residence common area and for offices.
That would be, I guess, number 2 on the best scenario.
Why are you selling?
I think my work is done here.
Let's talk about the St. Jude Dream Home here. Fewer than 1,500 tickets left. They won't last long. There's an added bonus here. I want to show you it again here. $10,000 Visa gift card plus a sterling silver cuff with gold and diamond accents. This price is good only through May 12th. By reserving a ticket, you win the gift card, the silver cup, and possibly a dream home worth almost $600,000, all in support of finding cures, saving lives at St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. Call the number there, 1-800-224-6681, or visit dreamhome.org and reserve your chance to win now. All right, take a look at the latest edition of the Commercial Appeal there. This is this month's Memphis Magazine. I'm sorry, Commercial Appeal. I mean Memphis Magazine. What am I talking about? Memphis Magazine, is it Friday yet? Almost. This is it, FedEx at 50, because it turns 50 on Monday. And there is a picture of President and CEO Raj Subramaniam, yes. And there is an exclusive interview with Raj to talk all things FedEx as it turns 50 on Monday. The author of that article, John W. Sparks, joining us right now on the Action News 5 digital desk. And John, before we get into that cover story, I gotta ask you a question. Are you the same John W. Sparks that's been in dozens of films like Santa Claus and other characters?
I don't know how you came to that conclusion, but yes, I will confess to that.
I knew it. You've been in like 40 films. That's incredible. So my producer Amanda Hansen and I were kind of going through different things. And of course, we've talked before on the digital desk, but then it was like you came up in the International Movie Database. How long has your career been? I mean, you've spanned all these different movies. How'd you get into it?
I have been doing this for a number of years. It happened here in Memphis when I was doing some entertainment coverage of the local film scene. And I did a profile of Red West, who was Elvis's best friend and went on to have his own film career. So I did a feature story on him when he was filming something here back about, 15, maybe close to 20 years ago. And I said, well, this is interesting. Maybe I should take some acting lessons because I know I have a natural ham element to it. And it just grew from there.
I love it. I love it. So, so everybody who's watching, check out John W. Sparks on. You can look at his films on International Movie Database and really kind of check it out. It's. I initially thought that you would just play Santa Claus, but you play all these other things too. In addition,
I've
to
played
Santa Claus.
assassins and bankers and psychiatrists.
Yeah. I know, reporter too.
Once in a while, I get to do that.
All right, excellent, excellent. Well, I'm glad that you've helped us solve the mystery. Again, let's talk about this FedEx at 50. Monday, April 17th, that's when FedEx turns 50 years old. And you talk with the president and CEO, Raj Subramaniam there. In his first year as president and CEO, it has been, let's just say, a bumpy year for FedEx. They've had some layoffs. They've had some tough numbers to deal with. What was the mood of that interview that you did with him? Because I've met Raj a few times. Great, personable guy, really nice, super friendly. But, of course, with, some tough economic news, that can hit anybody pretty hard.
It was a tough year last year, and actually the time coming up before that was pretty rough. But it was the time before that, too, that Raj had been with the company for over 30 years. And he's been on a steady track going up. He's worked in Hong Kong and in Toronto, so he has a very keen and complete sense of the international implications of the company. And it was quite clear that he was being groomed to be CEO and president. So I think there are not often very many surprises when it comes to FedEx. And they knew that difficult times were happening. Last September, they had a quarterly report, and the stock dived further than it ever had before in the company's history. But Subramaniam also has a very good sense of what needs to be done. There's a very good sense of cool competence to what is going on there. And he said, well, yes, we're having difficult times, and this is why. The demand was down for packages. Inflation was certainly taking a toll. Pandemic wrecked it for everybody. But they had carefully planned and said, well, we're going to do whatever it takes to get back to the top of the game. They have been doing that. A lot of it is $3 to $4 billion worth of cuts that they have been and will continue to make. A lot of that, as you mentioned, were some layoffs. Recently, they announced that they were consolidating the operations of their major divisions. That will be a key part to it as well. So I think Subramaniam came into this prepared, knew what the bad news was going to be, and knew the proper way to respond to it. And in fact, the market, after it took that huge dive in September, has come back up to about where it was at that time since then. So there is a pretty clear sense that he has an idea of where he wants to take this company.
Yeah, and I've seen him on CNBC. I mean, you see him on all the business channels, because so FedEx goes the economy. And another saying is, so FedEx goes, so does Memphis. I mean, so many Memphians are connected either directly or indirectly with the vitality of FedEx. And what's great about the article, John, is it really goes in depth on FedEx, both past, present, future. You ask what FedEx is going to be like in 50 years. And I don't want to give too much away of what the article, the contents of that article, but did you, as a Memphian, as a Mid-Southerner, did you come away from this interview thinking that, hey, look, this is a bump in the road, FedEx is going to be just fine? Or did you come away from it as saying, this is a bump in the road, and there's going to be several bumps that may take a while before it gets better?
I had a feeling that they at least have insight into what is going on in the world. In fact, he speaks to that, saying that one of their strengths is that every day they do their deliveries, and every day they get a little bit of an advance look at what is going on in the world. And they are parlaying that knowledge into how they operate the company. So this bump in the road, it's been like a series of bumps, really, and they've addressed all of them, I think, pretty well. And I believe that they will continue because they're very much about very much about innovation as well. You can't really be an innovative company unless you are watching what's going on around you. And Raj seems to be very talented at doing that. And of course, Fred Smith, the founder of FedEx, is still on the board. He still has his hand in things, helping guide the overall vision of the company. So I have a feeling that they're feeling quite confident about the direction.
I know that anytime I cover a story, you know, that it's fit into usually a minute 30, or you know, maybe I'll get 2 minutes on a piece. And I know when writers do a story, it's fit into however many amounts of words. Is there something that you could share with us that perhaps didn't make it in the magazine that you thought was interesting? Maybe his demeanor, maybe something that, you know, we don't know about. I mean, we know Raj is a capable guy. He's been with the company like 30 years plus, worked closely with FedEx founder Fred Smith. Anything else you can tell us about him?
I think that he's so professional at this, and he always keeps his cards close to his chest. And you know, this recent consolidation of the operations of the various divisions, we did not have that in the story that we wrote because they announced it afterwards. However, if you read what he's got to say, he talks very much about collaboration, and he means that in a very broad sense. This is an illustration of that. If you read the tea leaves of what he was saying, the idea of getting these operating divisions together will streamline things. It will cut costs, which is a top priority. And so I think that that's something that you know, they're very good at is seeing what's coming. They don't spill.
I get it. I totally get it. Again, this is Memphis Magazine's current edition, the April edition of the magazine here. FedEx at 50 yesterday, today, tomorrow. An exclusive interview with Raj Subramaniam, the president and CEO of FedEx, and the man who wrote the article, John W. Sparks, someone who has been in like 40 films. When's your next film, John? When can we check it out?
Oh, I can't talk about it, but it'll be coming out. Yes.
That is awesome. John W. Sparks, appreciate it. Always a great conversation. Thanks for talking about not only your movie career, but also a great piece, the cover story of the Memphis Magazine. Take care.
Thank you. You too.
Amanda Hansen back here at the Action News 5 digital desk. And this morning we want to talk about shingles. A lot of times I think people believe that this happens in older people, but if you didn't know, it can happen in younger people too. And so joining us now to talk more about this is Dr. Sarah Lynn Walters with Regional One Health. Good morning, doctor. How you doing?
Good morning. I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm glad to be talking with you because I think this is such an interesting topic. And one reason why, my sister, she's in her early 30s, recently had the shingles, and she was like, I had no idea at this age that I could get that sort of thing. So I felt like this is such a great topic to talk about a little bit more. So I guess first off, let's just talk about what shingles is.
Okay, so shingles is actually what we refer to as herpes zoster. And so this is an infection that you can get from having a prior infection with chickenpox. It comes from the same virus. And so when you had chickenpox, that virus remained in your body, but it remained dormant or inactive. And for various reasons later in life, then you reactivate that virus and it causes shingles, which is a rash similar to chickenpox, but it's in one area of your body on one side that causes the same blistering, rash, and burning that you may have when you had chickenpox in the past.
Are there things that can trigger shingles in individuals, such as stress, something like that?
a theory that stress may induce shingles. One of the things that we do know is that shingles reactivate when your body's immune system is at its lowest. And that's why we tend to hear, you don't get shingles until you're older, because when you're a young child or when you're an older adult or past the age of 65, your immune system starts to weaken. And so now that we're seeing it in people that are under the age of 50, there is some concerns about, multifactorially, whether, we have younger people that are sicker, and so they have some reduced immune system, or other stressors that cause your immune system to be lower at that time, including COVID that we just went through the pandemic.
That's a good point with COVID. Who's most at risk, though? We've kind of touched on, a lot of times people see this in older people. Are those the ones that are most at risk?
So those and anyone who has a weakened immune system. So about 1 in 3 of us will get shingles in our lifetime. And the ones who tend to be the most at risk are people who are over 50. And that's why the vaccines are recommended for that age group. And then anyone that has any type of immunity or weakened immunity. So from various diseases, like say HIV, if that was uncontrolled, children that have, immune disorders, or even adults with cancers and things like that, that may have weakened immunity.
It makes sense. Thank goodness there's the chickenpox shot that's now available. They didn't have that when I was a kid, and I remember my mom would take me around kids that had the chickenpox so I would get it at a young age. So I guess let's talk about some of the signs, symptoms that people need to look out for, and maybe would alert them that maybe this is what they have.
So the first thing that people tend to feel is like a burning, almost like an internal itch in an area of their body. It can be the trunk of your body. It can be on an arm, a leg, or a face. And so that's the first thing you started feeling without seeing the rash. About 5 to 7 days into that is when you start seeing kind of the fluid-filled rash that we become so comfortable with for chickenpox. And, of course, chickenpox is not as common. So there may be some people who've never actually seen the blistering rash, but it then blisters up in that same area, one side of your body, and over time, then that crusts over like you would have with a typical chickenpox. Some people may end up having fevers associated with it or abdominal pain, but the primary problem is the rash on one side of your body.
My sister, she immediately was feeling, she felt like it was that nerve pain. I mean, she said it was horrible. She ended up, she's not one that would just go into the emergency room. She ended up in the emergency room wanting to know what was going on. And then, of course, a few days later, that's when that rash appeared and it became evident that that's what it was. But at first it was kind of like, what is this? And she's a nurse, which is interesting enough. But I know we touched on this some, but younger people, why is it, you think, that more younger people are getting shingles like this? I know we mentioned the stress. Is that kind of, and just the weakened immune system, is that kind of really what it's all about?
There's a couple different theories. And actually, if you look at the data, it shows that, as time has been going on, younger people are having higher rates of shingles than people over 50. They're starting to plateau a little bit. One of the major thought process is that if you were born before 1980, just like you talked about with your mom, everyone kind of got shingles naturally, or chickenpox, naturally. And so that chickenpox immunity they're feeling may be a little stronger than the vaccines we're now getting. And so you have kind of younger persons who, don't remember getting chickenpox or may not have the vaccine early enough. And then that causes a weaker immunity than if you had chickenpox when you were for the older population. And so because of that, they feel that, it doesn't protect you as well. And so that reactivation is quicker. There's also some theories about the chickenpox vaccine that you used to get in the past was a live vaccine. And so that may have induced kind of that reactivation.
This is just so interesting to me, just because my sister was personally affected by this. Let's talk a little bit more about shingles itself. How long does it last? How contagious is it to pass along to other people?
Okay. So like we discussed, that burning, nerve pain, itching that you may feel, that usually is about the first 5 days. And around that time, you are not contagious. You aren't contagious until you have those blistering rashes that are starting to open. And so that's usually in that first 7 to 10 days is when you start seeing that blistering rash. Over time, that crusts over. So once it's crusted, again, you're no longer contagious. And overall, the whole exposure can last for about 2 to 4 weeks in terms of getting the burn-in, getting the rash, having the rash kind of clear up and everything resolve. It can take about 2 to 4 weeks. Unlike chickenpox, it is only contagious when you touch the fluid from the blister and rash. So for most people, they can just cover up that rash and make sure that they wash their hands pretty well and not interact with it. And in that situation, you won't be contagious to others.
So does it help to get shingles early?
It does not, because there is an opportunity that you can get it a second time. Most people only get it once in their lifetime, but conceivably you get it earlier, then you have that chance of, as you get older and your immunity weakens again, to be able to get it a second time.
I was going to ask you, is it something that you can get again? And so you answered that question for me, which, I hope I don't end up with it at some point. But after experiencing what happened with my sister, I'm just like, wow. What about treatment? Does treatment depend? Does it vary from person to person on what works to help with either the nerve pain, the rash? How is it treated?
So when you do know or have, just like your sister, have a inkling that, there's a rash or something is going on, you want to get treated with antiviral medication. So you have acyclovir or valacyclovir. Those are antivirals that you want to give within the first 48 or 72 hours. And that reduces not only the duration of the rash and the symptoms, but it reduces your chance of having what we call post-herpetic neuralgia, which is a complication that you can get after shingles, where that burning and that pain in that area actually never goes away.
I've heard about that. I've actually done stories with people that have it's just debilitating and awful. What about the vaccine? We've talked about the vaccine some. Who should get it? When should they get it? Tell us more.
So for the shingles vaccine, it's recommended for patients or persons over the age of 50, and it's a 2-shot vaccine. Now, if you have a weakened immune system, or say someone that has, cancer, and we know that's going on, then your provider or your physician can order for you to get the vaccine earlier than the age of 50. It's available, however, it's an expensive vaccine. So if you want to go based on recommendations, then those would be the persons that are more likely to have that shingles is age 50 and above.
With more younger people seeing shingles, do you think eventually that might be altered a little bit on the age?
It could be, because initially it was actually 65 and above, and so they reduced it to 50. And like we talked about, the data is showing that patients or persons over 65 and 70, the number of persons getting shingles have kind of plateaued, so it's not getting any higher. But the numbers that are going up are mostly in the people in the 40 to 50 range, and of course the younger ones are starting to go up. So I think if that trend continues, you might see the recommendation continue to drop.
Well, Dr. Walters, this interview has been so interesting to me. Is there anything else that you want to mention before we let you go?
In addition to getting the shingles vaccine, which is for over 50, get your chickenpox vaccine. So that is one of the things that will help kind of reduce the chances of you having that reactivation. So they kind of go hand in hand, since they're the same virus. It's just at different presentations.
Well, good deal. Well, Dr. Walters, I really appreciate your time, and thanks so much.
Thank you.
Taking a live look right now from our High Five camera, downtown Memphis. Beautiful out there. Just lots of sunshine. It's bright. It looks extremely great to go outside and enjoy yourself. It's bright and sunshiny. You know what else is bright and sunshiny? Talisa Franklin. She is with us with WAVN The Trend. She is joining us as she does on every Tuesday morning. And Talisa, tell me first off, how you doing?
Amazing, blessed, excited, feeling great about myself, about my city. I'm just feeling great about you and everybody that's connected to me. I'm just feeling good.
Hey, there's something wrong with your audio. I'll tell you what, we're going to come back to you in just a second. We're going to go with the weather forecast, and then we'll come back to you, see if we can work on the audio. Thanks, Talisa.
A wonderful spring day ahead as temperatures will soar toward 80 degrees this afternoon. A southwest breeze at about 10 to 15 miles per hour. All that sunshine is going to stick around again tomorrow as well. Let's show you what's happening, though. Toward the end of the week, we have a cold front that's going to move in. Ahead of it, it stays warm each afternoon for a good portion of the eastern half of the country. Scattered showers and storms, though, will develop along this front Thursday afternoon and then push east Thursday night. So we could see a strong or severe storm or two either Thursday night or again Friday evening as the main system pushes through. Behind that system, we're going to see maybe a lingering shower early Saturday morning, but much cooler air filters in just in time for the weekend. So it's going to drop pretty big time as far as those temperatures are concerned Saturday and Sunday. But we do have a slight risk for a few severe storms Thursday night and mainly in Arkansas. It's a marginal risk for parts of West Tennessee, Northwest Mississippi. Damaging wind, hail, those are the main threats as we go into Thursday night. Let's take you through the exact timing hour by hour in Futurecast. This is a closer in view, and you can see those scattered showers and storms coming through between 9 p.m. and 6 a.m. early Friday morning, and then off and on through the day Friday, especially east of Memphis. It gets a little heavier Friday night just to the east with that main line coming on through, and then finally pushes out. But I think those clouds are going to linger for much of the day on Saturday. We're talking about 1 to 2 inches of rain. So a pretty big dose of rainfall with this system, so that may be one of the bigger issues that we see. We'll keep you posted, though, as always, on the Action News 5 First Alert weather app. You can track the rain and thunderstorms on the radar throughout the day Thursday and Friday. As we go into the weekend, we're looking at temperatures dropping into the 60s, so almost a 20-degree drop in temperatures for the weekend. Some sun may finally pop out on Sunday, but Saturday looks awfully cool. In fact, that high may actually only hit the upper 50s to low 60s. And as we take a look at the First Alert 7-day forecast, we've got that 80% chance for showers and thunderstorms on Friday, and then next week we'll start to warm up again as we head toward Monday.
All right, let's try it again. Talisa, let's talk and see what's happening in your world with WAVN The Trend. Talisa Franklin.
Hello there. Well, I tell you, my world is always great right here in the 901. Listen, on this weekend, y'all, there's so many great things happening this weekend. Oh, my God, there's nothing like the Bluff City. So there is a tea and conversation that is happening and hosted by the great MPD. Austin Peay Station presents a tea and conversation. Listen, it's going to be free food and information and conversations. And it just makes us feel good to see the positive impact that Memphis Police Department, Austin Peay Station, and so many others, but especially right now, Austin Peay Station is doing in the community, because it's going to allow the community to understand that the police is not only just to enforce the law, but they're to encourage you and to let you know that they care. We know all the great, the bad things so much looks like is going on, but there's greater things that's going on in Memphis. And just shout out to MPD. Listen, I'm grateful that we could not live in the city without you. And so if you are in the Fraser area, the Raleigh area, Ed Rice Community Centers, where all roads will lead to, right? For the tea and conversation. Put on your dresses, your shirts, your suits, and your hats, and get all cute and handsome for free food, games, and entertainment. Listen, if you know that you want to attend, it's absolutely free. Listen, just reach out to Officer Naylor as ASAP. I know it says April 15, but if I know how the MPD works, they will compensate you and make sure that you get there, because we really, really want to impact our community with great positive things. And then, y'all, this weekend, shout out to the beautiful, I was called Miss AC and Dr. AC, y'all. African April. African April has been a staple here in our city. And this year, they are celebrating 36 years of doing cultural awareness festival. And listen, this Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, it all happens right here in the Mid-South. Listen, Friday, Dr. AC and Lady AC make sure we have so many great things going on. So Friday is always dedicated to our children and our seniors. It happens at Robert R. Church Park. Then there's a parade that goes on. So like at 10 o'clock that morning, Friday, all roads are there from 10 o'clock that morning to 11 o'clock that night. You can go to African April and have an amazing, great time. And then Saturday is the Health and Wellness Day. Happens again all day from 8 a.m. to 10:30. Yes, it's going to be great. And then Sunday is the International Music Day where they are honoring Rwanda. And it's going to be at Robert R. Church Park from 8 a.m. to 9 p.m. It's always a great turnout. Memphis does an amazing job of supporting the ACEs. They are a staple in this community, and I'm always honored because a lot of times people say, I don't do African April. I do Juneteenth, but the ACEs does the African April. But what makes me feel good that we're all friends and we work together and we have conversations on how that we both can continue to build great cultural events right here in our city. So this weekend, y'all know all roads lead to support Dr. AC and Yvonne AC, African April's 36th-year anniversary, celebrating Rwanda. It's going to be a great weekend. And so do something for yourself, do something for your fellow man or woman, and let's just have a good time.
I love it, Talisa. I love it all. Tell me what's going on at WAVN, The Trend today.
Today, y'all, we are on the Stella nominated ballot. Listen, I need everybody to go to StellaAwards.com and vote for your Memphis girl, your Memphis station, WAVN The Trend. We're back on the ballot. Last year we was on the ballot and we were nominated, and we're back on it again this year. We believe in God that we can bring the trophy home. But listen, if nothing else, we are already doing the great that we know that we're doing. We've been a beacon of light in this community over the airways. And so I feel like because I'm in Memphis, we've already won, right? Because nothing's like the Bluff City. We are winners. But I want you guys to go and vote to StellaAwards.com, WAVN The Trend. Shout out to my amazing program director, Linda Covington. You'll see her name on the ballot because she's a program director. I'm so grateful for her and her leadership. Listen, we all working together, and let's bring it home. Stella Awards. So that's what we're talking about. How we going to bring it home?
Nice. Best of luck to you. Listen, I mean, I don't know anybody else that could beat you guys. You guys are awesome. You are awesome, Talisa. God bless you and everything that you do each and every day. Thanks so much.
All right. Thank you, brother. Have a good one.
You too. Okay, so now I want to switch gears here after we've talked to Talisa Franklin. I want to go now to something that's happening in Memphis right now. In fact, I've split the screen here so you can look at something that is happening right now. These are sanitation workers for Republic Services that are on week 2 of their strike. This is live pictures from the scene here. And this is at a rally at a South Memphis landfill. And these are Republic Service workers that work in Memphis and in Millington. And what they want to do is highlight their ongoing work stoppage by protesting the company's what they call unfair labor practices and unsafe working conditions. They're also talking about how one of their sanitation workers was killed in an accident. And of course, the sanitation workers now are on strike, and they are remembering what happened 55 years ago in Memphis with the 1968 strike that took place that brought the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King to Memphis. And so there are a number of people here, a number of not only sanitation workers, but also people who support them that are expected to speak. We do have Sydney Gray, as I mentioned, that's going to be there, that's there right now. She is going to be live on Action News 5 at midday, coming up in less than 2 hours. That's going to be at 11 o'clock on WMC TV 5, and you can hear more about this strike and what it means for Republic Services and what it means for people in Memphis and in Millington that are affected by this strike. All right, moving on here. Let's talk about Governor Bill Lee signing the Transportation Act. It is a new transportation strategy to accommodate Tennessee's record growth. So it's going to invest over $3 billion in state funds to help address traffic congestion and meet transportation needs across rural and urban communities. State leaders say the bill received bipartisan support and was backed by dozens of organizations across the state. Mississippi Governor Tate Reeves signed a bill creating a volunteer firefighter service award program. It creates individual accounts which each firefighter can have up to $500 a year deposited by the state based on their service. The money accumulates over time. Firefighters can access it when they retire. The governor says it means a lot to the volunteer firefighters protecting communities.
When Mississippians are in their greatest moments of need, you are there for Mississippians. You run into burning buildings and you put your life on the line for others.
Governor says this bill should help recruit, retain, and reward volunteer firefighters all across the state. All right, let's talk for a minute here about pancreatic cancer. It is one of the deadliest cancers out there right now in the U.S., and it's a large part of the reason, doctors say, is because by the time it's diagnosed and by the time they find it, a lot of times it's too late. But there's brand new research that has to deal with a brand new test that can find pancreatic cancer in its very early stages. And researchers are now saying that this can save countless lives. It was the subject of a Best Life report. Take a look.
Nancy Perez knows the pancreas all too well. Pancreatic cancer killed her grandmother, her uncle, and her mother.
When my mother got diagnosed, she had 6 months to live.
Perez's aunt was diagnosed and died 2 years after her mother.
I'm approaching my 60s, and that's when my mom was diagnosed and my aunt. So, you know, I get nervous.
Because of her strong family history, Perez has had yearly screening tests, which can be time-consuming and very costly. And now her doctor has recommended a new blood test, the IMMray PatCan-D. The screening tool checks the serum in the blood for more than 8 biomarkers, including CA19-9, which is often used in pancreatic cancer detection.
When they combine those 8 biomarkers plus CA19-9, they arrived at a test that can detect pancreas cancer at stage 1, so very early stage pancreas cancer, 93% of the time.
If the blood test results are high, doctors say patients will be referred for additional screening. If doctors catch early stage cancer, patients can be candidates for surgery, which is the only potential cure.
Which, in my opinion, having done this a very long time, is in fact a game changer.
They sent the blood work out, and I think within a week, Dr. Lacresti called me and said I was negative.
Peace of mind as Nancy Perez celebrates 60.
FedEx Express pilots, represented by the Airline Pilot Association, announced the voting window for a strike authorization ballot will open today. The association says negotiations for a new contract for the pilots have failed to produce an industry-leading agreement before a strike can take place. The National Mediation Board must first decide that additional mediation efforts would not be productive and offer parties an opportunity to review a contract. Now, in a statement, FedEx said, pardon, quote, "We remain committed to negotiating in good faith with our pilots to achieve an agreement that is fair to them, our other team members, and all other FedEx stakeholders." Home sellers nationwide are coming off a record-breaking run that led to some of the lowest mortgage rates of all time, combined with some of the highest home prices they've ever seen. But 2023, a much different story. The U.S. housing market has been on a steady 12-month decline, resulting in some dropping home values, dramatically rising interest rates. What is the current state of real estate right now? Let's bring in Ryan Rogers. He's a real estate specialist out of Austin, Texas. He joins us on the digital desk. Ryan, give us the current state of real estate with regards to buyers and sellers. Good morning.
Hi, good morning. Thanks for having me. So what I would tell them for buyers specifically is even though rates still may be up a little bit, prices still have come down or starting to flatten. So a year ago, if you were having to overpay, especially in our market, let's say $150,000 on a specific piece of property, and even though the rate was maybe 3.5%, you're maybe paying $150,000 less for that property today, but the rate is of course higher. So it all balances out in many situations. But all across the nation, we're still seeing, decreased buyer activity, and in many markets also increased seller activity. So it's different from market to market for sure.
So I'm still trying to understand exactly what, as a buyer and a seller, what you should do first and foremost if you're in the market right now.
So if you're in the market right now as a buyer, I would focus on a couple of things. Is you want to get pre-approved and understand what you're going to be, what your payment is going to be. Do that first, because that's number one. To have your ducks in a row, have your financing in order, and be ready to pull the trigger if you do have one. If you do see something that you like. I always recommend a buyer maybe go and look for a house that's been on the market for a while, maybe 30 days or 60 days, because in this market, no matter where you are, properties that have been on the market 30, 60, 90 days, you have a much better opportunity to get a better price because they've already been able to expose themselves to the marketplace and find out, are they overpriced? And so for the buyer, they can be they can be at a more advantage. It's been on the market 30, 60, 90 days. And go maybe look at those first instead of ones that have been on the market just a year or two, because it will be a more competitive situation. For sellers, my number one advice for sellers is don't price the house too high coming out of the gate. You want to price it very aggressively so that you get as many people through the property as quickly as possible.
You've done a nice job
be realistic
editing this.
when you set that value in today's market.
Did a great
another
job.
thing that a seller needs to be aware of or ready for is if you have a good buyer with a reasonable offer, and they tend to hesitate a little bit, one thing that you can do is offer a rate buy down. So offering some closing cost assistance to maybe help them, instead of a 6.5% interest rate, maybe they can buy that rate down to maybe about 6%,
you did a nice job editing
let's
this.
say. And then the last thing for sellers is don't test the market
his stuff was,
by starting high and then continuing to decrease the price, because it'll get stale and it's not a good strategy.
Ryan Rogers, real estate specialist out of Austin, Texas. We appreciate the points, the finer points here, and some tips out there for buyers and sellers. Thanks very much. All right, let's go back to this rally here that's happening live. This is Republic Services sanitation strike, and some of the people are speaking here. This strike is in week 2. It comes after it comes after a death that took place while on the job. This is Memphis City Councilman J.B. Smiley Jr. He is saying a few words here.
Was birthed, we're still being treated the same way. We're talking about unfair wages, unsafe working environments. It's time for us as a people, it's time for us as elected officials to do more than just talk about how we can create change. It's time for us to create laws that have our community, to treat people fairly, to encourage safe working conditions there, and create and to cause livable wages to be put in place. Now, sometimes it requires to protest, to stand in support.
So this is, while he's speaking, I want to just kind of bring you up to date if you're just joining us. This is a strike that's happening with Republic Services. So they operate in various parts of the Mid-South, but these specific workers are off the job that work in Memphis and in Millington. And they're off the job because of what they call unfair labor practices and not very good sanitary conditions, and they point to the death of a worker while on the job that took place earlier this year. So they have been on strike now for 2 weeks. This is the second week, and this is Memphis City Councilman J.B. Smiley. And so we are watching this here in the Action News 5 digital desk as they continue to rally. This is outside of an area in South Memphis near one of the landfills. We'll continue to follow this here on the digital desk and bring you updates as they warrant. Right now, I want to go to an interview with a representative from FEMA who's on the ground right now. Actually, want to go to we'll hold on to that one. We'll talk to them in a little bit. But right now, I want to go to this issue of cyber threats that we're dealing with. Cyber threats, very much a concern across Memphis, the Mid-South, across the country. Well, let's talk about what to do to avoid becoming a victim. Cyber threats, they can be catastrophic for so many businesses and for individuals, causing disruption in essential services and breaches of national security secrets. So what are the cyber threats and what can we do about them? Let's talk to our Senior Vice President here for Cyberspace and National Security Policy at the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, Chris Roberti, for insights on how to combat cyber threat issues. Good morning, Chris. How are you?
Good morning, Andrew. I'm doing well. Thanks for having me.
I appreciate you being here. What do businesses and individuals really need to know about the current cybersecurity threats? We hear all about all kinds of threats, and they evolve over time. What do we know about the latest threats?
Well, we know that these threats are significant, that they are pervasive, and that the people perpetrating them are very, very sophisticated. What people and companies need to know is that anonymity is not a defense. Companies large and small can all be victims of significant cyber attacks. And so once you recognize that there's a problem out there and you could be a potential target, you could take some steps to try and make yourself a harder target to prevent yourself from being victimized.
What are the most persistent cyber threats for businesses and individuals? You know, we hear all kinds of different ones, phishing emails and texts and robocalls, that sort of thing. What do you see as the most persistent cyber threats out there?
Sure. So those things that you mentioned are very common vectors on how an attack can be perpetrated or initiated. But in terms of the type of attack, we're seeing ransomware, which is, I'm sure many people are familiar with that. There's been lots of discussion about ransomware attacks over the last couple of years. What ransomware is a cyber attack coupled with a demand for payment. And often what the actors will do is encrypt a company's files and then threaten to keep them encrypted, so preventing the company from getting access to them unless and until the company makes a payment to these criminals, which can be very debilitating. The average downtime for ransomware attacks is about 3 weeks, and the average time it takes to recover is over 280 days. So many companies, small companies particularly, can be really impacted by this. The second attack we'll talk about, or type of cyber attack, is what's called a business email compromise, where attackers make their way onto a company's systems, observe how the company operates, and then create or generate a fraudulent payment request to a vendor or other entity, such that the company ends up paying out this fraudulent claim and doesn't even realize it until later. So those are both very common threats, but we can't put aside also cyber threats that are cyber attacks that are targeting stealing data, stealing intellectual property for espionage purposes, or even destructive purposes. So there's a range of threats out there.
It sounds like it. I mean, it just sounds awful. Give us some of the best defense tips and suggestions.
Sure. Yeah, I don't want to be all doom and gloom. So there are things that individuals and companies can do to protect themselves and really limit the likelihood that you'll be victimized. So the first, as I said before, is recognize that there's a problem, that being small or anonymous is not a defense. Second thing you can do is ensure that you are enabling multi-factor authentication. So it's not just a password, but a password plus another thing that would cuts down significantly on successful cyber attacks. Another thing companies can do is back up their data and encrypt it. They can be they should be downloading and patching their systems and updating their systems regularly. And they should be training their employees to avoid those kinds of emails that you mentioned earlier. Something like 87% of successful cyber attacks come through those types of spear phishing attacks or attempts. So if companies and if employees can figure out how to detect these things and avoid them, that goes a long way. And then the last thing I'll mention is they should be building relationships with their local FBI field office or Secret Service field office or cybersecurity and infrastructure security agency official from the Department of Homeland Security.
Our parent company, Gray TV, seems to always send us about every month or so, every few weeks, different security training, different updates on what to watch out for and what to find suspicious in order to guard against some of these threats. What are other people doing on a local level and on a national level to really kind of protect us from these threats?
Andrew, that's great to hear that your parent company is doing that, because that is really important. Because if people have it in the top of mind that threats can come to anybody within an organization, that really helps. That builds a collective defense that we all need. And then so going out from individual companies, the U.S. Chamber of Commerce plays an important role as connective tissue between the government and the private sector on cyber policy issues, whether that be pushing out information or influencing legislation. We play an important role there. At the federal government level, there are very dedicated professionals working to stop cyber criminals, to go after them on the law enforcement side, also to work with the private sector, which there's also has very sophisticated capabilities to defend networks and ensure that cyber attacks are not successful, and then also on remediation side. So there is we call it government and private sector operational collaboration, which is really important and critical because neither side can do it alone. And this translates all the way down to the state and local level as well.
People watching right now might want to look more at some of the resources and some of the tips, suggestions, and ways to stay safe. Do you have any resources for some of our viewers, Chris?
Sure. Yeah, the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, we've got a lot of stuff on our website. You can go to uschamber.com/security. There's a link for cybersecurity. Also, the Department of Homeland Security has some great resources at CISA.gov. That's CISA.gov. And then the FBI as well, through their Internet Crimes Complaint Center, IC3.gov. There's lots of resources out there. Click away. That'll help people figure out how to make themselves more a tougher target, but also what to do if they find themselves victimized.
Okay, Senior Vice President for Cyberspace and National Security Policy, U.S. Chamber of Commerce, Chris Roberti. Thanks so much for your insight. We appreciate it very much.
Thanks for having me, Andrew.
A wonderful spring day ahead as temperatures will soar toward 80 degrees this afternoon. A southwest breeze at about 10 to 15 miles per hour. All that sunshine is going to stick around again tomorrow as well. Let's show you what's happening, though. Toward the end of the week, we have a cold front that's going to move in. Ahead of it, it stays warm each afternoon for a good portion of the eastern half of the country. Scattered showers and storms, though, will develop along this front Thursday afternoon and then push east Thursday night. So we could see a strong or severe storm or two either Thursday night or again Friday evening as the main system pushes through. Behind that system, we're going to see maybe a lingering shower early Saturday morning, but much cooler air filters in just in time for the weekend. So it's going to drop pretty big time as far as those temperatures are concerned Saturday and Sunday. But we do have a slight risk for a few severe storms Thursday night and mainly in Arkansas. It's a marginal risk for parts of West Tennessee, Northwest Mississippi, damaging wind, hail, those are the main threats as we go into Thursday night. Let's take you through the exact timing hour by hour in Futurecast. This is a closer in view, and you can see those scattered showers and storms coming through between 9 p.m. and 6 a.m. early Friday morning, and then off and on through the day Friday, especially east of Memphis. It gets a little heavier Friday night just to the east with that main line coming on through, and then finally pushes out. But I think those clouds are going to linger for much of the day on Saturday. We're talking about 1 to 2 inches of rain. So a pretty big dose of rainfall with this system, so that may be one of the bigger issues that we see. We'll keep you posted, though, as always, on the Action News 5 First Alert weather app. You can track the rain and thunderstorms on the radar throughout the day Thursday and Friday. As we go into the weekend, we're looking at temperatures dropping into the 60s, so almost a 20-degree drop in temperatures for the weekend. Some sun may finally pop out on Sunday, but Saturday looks awfully cool. In fact, that high may actually only hit the upper 50s to low 60s. And as we take a look at the First Alert 7-day forecast, we've got that 80% chance for showers and thunderstorms on Friday, and then next week we'll start to warm up again as we head toward Monday.
Andrew Douglas back here in the Action News 5 digital desk. I want to tell you about more cars and trucks driving with their headlights or taillights off at night. In fact, you might actually be one of those drivers and don't even realize it. Brendan Key found out why there are so many lights out on the roadway.
When the sun goes down and the lights come up, the brightest objects compete for our attention. But the greatest danger is what's lurking in the shadows. Do you see it? Look closer. No headlights.
Driving in the wrong lane and without headlights. Sitting on the interstate with no headlights on.
Across the nation,
A vehicle with the headlights out.
The truck didn't have its headlights on.
phantom vehicles are causing crashes and taking lives. Why are we seeing more phantom vehicles now?
It turns out the answer has been right under our noses this entire time. The modern instrument panel. It's always on, even when the headlights are off. Night or day, day or night. The gauge cluster and radio are always lit in car after car after car after car, manufactured in the last 10 years. Combined with the daytime running lamps, there are now multiple visual cues that the lights are on, even though the headlights and taillights are dark.
Before dashboards went digital, analog gauges stayed dark when the headlights were off. Not anymore.
Most of our vehicles have technology where the headlights are automatically on as a default when you start up the vehicle.
Frank Weissman is with Atlanta-based Porsche North America.
Headlights are on through the auto function. I can actively turn them off here, get the little message that I've done that, but as soon as I move off again, or above 6 miles an hour, headlights and taillights come back on.
So even if the driver turns the headlights off, they will come back on automatically while they're driving.
Correct. And then if you wanted to turn them off while you're driving, you can't. And I can't turn them off even if I wanted to.
Porsche now installs these headlights on every new vehicle that has an always-on dashboard.
Is there ever a time where there are headlights on but there are no taillights on?
On these newer vehicles, no.
And now it's the law in Canada. All new cars sold since last fall must have taillights that come on with the daytime running lamps, or a dashboard that goes dark when the lights are off, or auto headlights on by default. Many new cars now sold in the U.S. were designed to meet the new Canadian standards. This is a new Ford. Turn the lights off, and the next time you start the car, the headlights default back to auto. New GMs have a spring switch, flipping back to auto when you restart the car.
So what we're getting the benefit of is essentially German engineering and Canadian regulation.
But the average car currently on our highways is more than 12 years old, which means we'll have to be on the lookout for phantom vehicles for another decade or so.
Okay, I want to tell you about May is Mental Health Awareness Month. It's a great opportunity for all you parents out there to pay extra attention to how your kids are spending their time online. I'm the parent of 2 older teenagers, and it can be very challenging for so many parents out there to really kind of know where to go, what to do, what's too much, what's too little. It is a tough world out there for the kids and for the parents. Let's bring in someone who knows this topic fairly well. This is Titania Jordan, and she has written a best-selling book, Parenting in a Tech World. Titania, good morning. How are you?
Hi there. Good morning. Thank you so much for having me.
I appreciate you being here. So tell me about this book. I love the title, Parenting in a Tech World, and give me some of the underlying issues when it comes to mental health with our teens.
Well, you know, our children are struggling in a way that no other set of children have struggled over the course of humanity. And a large part of it has to do with the screens that are in front of their faces upwards of 8 hours a day, and what's happening on those screens and the people and the issues they're encountering on those screens. And so the rate at which children are experiencing issues related to their mental health are skyrocketing, and we as parents are feeling completely overwhelmed. I can say this not only as the CMO of Bark and author of Parenting in a Tech World, but as the parent of a 14-year-old boy.
So I'm looking at some of these stats here that you have on Bark Technologies' 2022 annual report in Tennessee, and they're very startling, Titania. 52% of children in Tennessee involved in some sort of self-harm, suicide situation. 78.9, so almost 80% of children in Tennessee experience bullying, either as a victim or a witness. And something else all these, there's like 10 of them, but 77% engage in conversations surrounding drugs and alcohol. 75% almost encounter nudity and content of a sexual nature. As a parent, and our viewership is thousands right now, what do we tell parents to do?
So first of all, take a deep breath, give yourself some grace, and don't freak out, because it's hard and you're not alone and it's very overwhelming. The second thing to do is don't think not my child. Good kids make bad choices. Their frontal lobes of their brains, that's responsible for the decision-making aspects of their lives, aren't fully formed until their early 20s. And so we need to know it absolutely can be our kids. Good kids make bad choices. We need to be their safe place, right? If we freak out, yell, punish, etc., take away their access, their entertainment, their social sphere, it's not going to bode well for you. They're not going to open up to you, and they're not going to share with you when there are issues. So you need to understand it's happening, speak to them candidly, frequently, build that relationship with them. It's so critical, and it's so much different than when we were teenagers and with our parents. And then finally, know that most of the issues that are happening in their lives with them or their peers are buried deep within their digital signal. So utilize the free built-in parental controls that come with whatever tech they access. And then please take a look at monitoring solutions like Bark that can alert you when they have encountered these things.
Yeah, that's very interesting that there's that kind of technology out there. So you just said something, Bark Technologies that can alert you or a parent to some issues. Tell me how that works.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, a lot of times we are struggling with just how much time our kids are spending on screens. And many of us hopefully know how to implement time limits and filters, right? But a lot of us don't know that there is tech that can alert you when your child has encountered a bullying situation, an online predator, eating disorder related content, you name it. And that's Bark. So Bark uses AI, that's artificial intelligence, to connect to your children's devices and accounts, text, email, social media, YouTube, you name it, connects, analyzes, and then detects when there's a problem, sends you, the parent or caregiver, a text and an email letting you know, hey, here's what happened, and here's what you can do about it.
What else? So, what about other warning signs? What about other limits that you can put on them without saying, okay, you have no freedom? Because that's a big discussion. Oh, you're taking away my freedoms, blah, 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 blah.
Absolutely. And it's important to note that with Bark, we're not spying on everything or giving parents full access to their kids' everything, like reading a diary. We actually went about it in a way that gives children more privacy, because we're only alerting to the problems versus you having to go, get your kid's phone and look through every single thing. So that aside, Bark is a tool, much like a seatbelt or a helmet or sunscreen. It's only part of the equation. You as the parent need to pay attention to those early warning signs like changes in school performance, eating habit changes, increased irritability, inability to concentrate. If your children lose interest in activities or friends that they once loved, physical ailments without cause, like frequent stomach aches or headaches, sleeping too much, sleeping too little, and just general isolation from friends or teammates or family, those are all warning signs. You need to dig further, and don't hesitate to reach out to your child's pediatrician for advice.
That's a good point there, a good suggestion. With all the parents that are joining us here on our digital desk, if you were to give maybe 3 top priorities that they could do today, what would it be?
3 things that you can do today. 1, talk to your kids. Make sure they know you are a safe place. You may not agree with the things they say or the people they hang out with or the music they listen to, but you love them unconditionally, and they can come and talk to you about anything. You will help them navigate this rocky road that is growing up in 2023. 2, don't think it's not your child, and be their parent. Make sure you have implemented parental controls, screen time limits, filters, and parental monitoring like Bark so that you can get a handle on where they're spending the bulk of their time. And then 3, don't go it alone. There's a Facebook group called Parenting in a Tech World that you can join. It's free. It's on Facebook. It has over 300,000 parents in it. Join it and talk to parents just like me who can help you any time of the day or night.
I love how you spelled it out, Titania. Very simple, easy, user-friendly ideas. Is there a place, you mentioned the Facebook group, any other place that people can go to get some of these tips?
Absolutely. So in addition to the Facebook group, you can also go to bark.us. Everything is there.
Perfect. Okay, Titania Jordan, Chief Parent Officer, author of best-selling book, Parenting in a Tech World. Really appreciate you breaking it down. Such an important and necessary topic that we all need to hear. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Andrew Douglas back here in the Action News 5 digital desk. People are living longer these days. There have been so many different breakthroughs in aging science, and it's happening every single day. And as a result, people are living longer, healthier lives, not just to 100 years old, but living past 100. And the key is the quality of life is so much better. And I'm honored to be joined by someone who's very familiar with this topic. Dr. Michael Rosen is Emeritus Chief Wellness Officer at the Cleveland Clinic. He's also a professor at the Cleveland Clinic Lerner College of Medicine at Case Western Reserve University. He is also the author of 4 #1 New York Times best-selling books, hundreds of articles. Dr. Rosen, I really appreciate you joining us here in the Action News 5 digital desk. How are you?
I'm great, Andrew, and it's my privilege to join you.
Well, I appreciate it very much. So I understand that you have The Great Age Reboot. That's the latest book that you have coming out, and it's cracking the longevity code for a younger tomorrow. Briefly tell me what this book focuses on and how we can all benefit from it.
Well, it comes out today, and in fact, we've expanded life expectancy, that is public health and medical science, by about 2.5 years every 10 years since 1890. So life expectancy was 41 in 1890. It's now about 78. But in the next 10 years, because of breakthroughs in the research on aging mechanisms, we expect to get a 30-year jump in life expectancy with an 80% probability. And what that means is that you're not going to be living just longer, but you're going to expand the period between 40 and 60 to between 40 and 90. So it's your most productive time. Let me give you an example. Just donating plasma, which is one of the 14 areas of research, started by giving young blood to old rats. The young blood to the young rat blood to the old rat made the old rat young. Well, now they found all you need to do is a plasma exchange where you donate a unit of plasma. We pay graduate students to do it, so it's not expensive. You donate a unit of your own plasma, and what that does is it forces your body to make new plasma, getting rid of those old proteins and old cells repeatedly means that your muscles will get younger, your pancreas gets younger, your heart gets younger. Everything that's been studied, every organ that's been studied in animals gets younger. Now this is moving to human trials, as all 14 areas are. So in the AMBAR, A-M-B-A-R, if you want to Google it or go to our website at greatagereboot.com, you'll find out about it. In the AMBAR studies, randomized controlled trials in early Alzheimer's disease, you donate 9 episodes of plasma over a 4-month period, and over 15 months, every cognitive function, every form of brain functioning, 12 functions measured, all improved, reversing the cognitive dysfunction of early Alzheimer's disease. So all of these areas are moving into humans, so you're going to live longer but younger. Now, sometime in the future, maybe in 2050 or so, you'll go in the car wash at one end as 90 and come out 40 at the other end. But for now, it'll be organ by organ. That's why it's so important to do things to keep every one of your organs as young as possible.
Can we talk a little bit about some of these scientific breakthroughs? I know you mentioned plasma and keeping your organs healthy, but there must be some new scientific breakthroughs and discoveries that are also helping us live longer.
Well, that's one of the 14 areas, therapeutic plasma exchange. Another is what we call AI, that is artificial intelligence with already existing drugs. So at the Gladstone in San Francisco and at the Cleveland Clinic, they looked at the 4th degree structure of every already approved drug approved by the FDA that were generic. So these are inexpensive. And one of the drugs found by the Gladstone, a simple water pill, Bumex, decreased the attachment of amyloid and tau to brain cells and glia cells, so the brain areas. And when they looked at their 12 million person database, it decreased Alzheimer's risk and dementia risk by 70%. Similarly, and that's a $4 a month drug. So now that's a randomized controlled trial is starting in humans, but it's using another one of these breakthrough areas, if you will, the area of artificial intelligence. Similar thing happened with Viagra at the Cleveland Clinic. When they looked at it, it blocks the attachment of amyloid and tau. Women get Viagra for pulmonary hypertension, men for erectile dysfunction, but it blocks 69% of Alzheimer's disease. So that's another drug being tested to see if it can prospectively, in advance, block dementia. And the two of them are being tried together as well in another study. Let me give you another example. You're really a genetic engineer, because when you stress a muscle, you release a protein, you turn on a gene that makes a new protein. All genes are is protein factories, Andrew, and whether they're on or not are your choice. And what we learned with the Human Genome Project is you control over 80% of which genes are on or not. So your prior guest who was talking about stress, that's right, a posse and purpose change 256 genes that either produce inflammation or decrease inflammation. So when you moderate stress by talking to a friend or by having a purpose and remembering it, you turn off genes that produce inflammatory proteins and you turn on genes that decrease inflammatory proteins. Similarly, when you stress a muscle, you do the same thing. You turn on a gene that produces a small protein that goes to your brain and makes your memory center bigger, so that's why stressing a muscle, doing exercise, is so good for your brain.
I could have this conversation all day long, Dr. Rosen. I really enjoy this type of stuff and looking at ways to kind of age backwards or age younger. If someone's watching this for the first time and they're hearing this and they're kind of interested on, where to begin this this process to slow down aging or age backwards, where do you recommend people begin?
I think they should begin on something they love. So the point of this is to do things you love and that love you back. You may love French fries, but they're trying to kill you every day. You wouldn't marry someone who's trying to kill you every day. You shouldn't eat food that's trying to kill you every day. So find food that you love that loves you back. Similarly, find a physical activity, whether it's playing ping pong or paddleball or just walking or gardening. Whatever you love doing, you want to do and start. And the key is exactly what we said before, having a posse, having friends to help do it. So at our website at thegreatagereboot.com, we have a buddy match on our app so that you can get a friend who will do something you want to do. But that purpose, posse, and then only finding things you want to do that love you back, that are easy for you. So it may be that it is you want to take a supplement that helps you. So you can look at creatine. Creatine is a bodybuilding supplement that young people use to become like Arnold Schwarzenegger. But it also helps preserve muscle in the elderly, and it helps preserve brain function. There are 33 things that we cite in the book where there are 2 studies or more that change brain functioning for the better. So it's pretty easy. You find things you love to do that love you back. So this is really sunshine. It's not castor oil.
I like that. All right, so before we let you go, what kind of things can we do to really prepare to live longer? We all want to live longer, but we want that high quality of life as we age. What can we do right now to prepare for that?
So that's exactly it. Get a posse, get friends, and cultivate your friends. When we're young, it's easy, but as we get older, you need to work at keeping your friendship. Find a purpose. Find something you love doing that you want to do in your mission in life. Then choose some simple things, as we said, whether it is 10,000 steps a day, but it's also step equivalents. Whatever you want to do. So there are a lot of things in the book that you can do that are fun for you. But key, find things that make a difference. You can find them at our website at greatagereboot.com or in the book. There are plenty of them.
Before we let you go, one more thing, Dr. Rosen. The worst thing that people can do when it comes to aging, I know you mentioned stress and anxiety and that sort of thing. Is that the worst? What is the worst thing? Is it a bad diet? What is it in your opinion?
No, well, stress is the greatest ager, but the worst thing is just give up, is to think that it doesn't matter. It matters greatly. You get to control over 80% of which of your genes are on or not, and those genes slow the rate of aging. That's what the Human Genome Project showed. Instead of having 300,000 genes, as we expected by the DNA in your nucleus, you only have 22,500. But which of those genes are producing proteins and which are off? That's what the rest of that DNA does. And those switches, 80% of those switches, you get to control to determine which of your genes are on or off. So giving up is the worst thing because you get to control your rate of aging to a large degree.
I love how you're now predicting that with an 80% probability that 90 will be the new 40 in the next decade. I'm here for that, so really appreciate it. Dr. Michael Rosen, appreciate the conversation. Good luck on this new book, and thanks for joining us on the Digital Desk.
Thank you, Andrew.
Okay, Andrew Douglas back here in the Action News 5 Digital Desk. So over the course of the last 2-3 weeks. We have had deadly storms, tornadoes that have ravaged our area here in the Mid-South, in Arkansas, in North Mississippi, and in West Tennessee. So there's so many different questions that some of these storms victims have in terms of, how do we apply for assistance? Where do we go to get it? Who do we need to talk to? Well, right now I have someone in the know when it comes to that. I have Daryl Habish, a FEMA Public Information Officer assigned to West Tennessee, to talk more about what some of those victims can deal with when it comes to FEMA assistance. Daryl, I appreciate you joining us on the digital desk. Tell us what people can know, first and foremost, if they've had damage, if they're dealing with either being in a shelter right now or they've had their home damaged or destroyed. What do they need to do to get FEMA assistance?
Well, thank you so much for having us on today and getting this important information out to survivors of that March 31st, April 1st tornadoes and storms. The very first thing you need to do is make your insurance claim. And I say that because we're not allowed by law to duplicate any type of insurance payments. We can go above and beyond that, but we can't duplicate it. So make your insurance claim. Right after that, call FEMA. You can get in touch with us at 800-621-3362. That's 800-621-3362. You can also apply online at disasterassistance.gov. You can download the FEMA app to whichever, whether it's Apple or Google, so forth, the FEMA app. And that way you can be in constant communication with us. When you do apply, we'll need some very simple things like your insurance information. If you had insurance, we'll also need where the primary residence was that was affected by the storms. We'll also need, how do we contact you today? Where are you at? You may not be, obviously, in your previous home or the damaged property. So where are you at today? You might be in Mississippi, you might be in Arkansas, you could be in Nashville, but how do we get in touch with you? And we may ask, if you choose to have your money or grant money deposited, direct deposit to your bank account, we'll ask for that information too. What's your account number? What's your routing number? How do we, and also, what is your Social Security number? You're going to need one Social Security number within the household. Now, that might be a minor child. So we don't ask, it's not our business, what your legal status is, anything at all. What we need to know is there a person within your household that has a Social Security number? Now, if there isn't, we can point you in the direction of so many volunteer agencies, faith-based organizations that can provide assistance. The important thing to remember here is that this is really a whole community effort. FEMA can't do it alone. So we do have volunteer agencies. We have the Red Cross out there helping folks right now. We're following the lead of the state who are helping folks everywhere.
Yeah. Daryl, let me jump in here and ask you a couple things. And first, I want you to know that we have thousands of people watching us on our digital desk stream right now. And it's very simple for those people out there that are listening. If you have a family member or a friend that has had significant damage in West Tennessee from these storms, please, the first thing, as Daryl mentioned, the first thing you need to do is you make that insurance claim and then you contact FEMA either on the phone or online or through the FEMA app. So that is it right there. That's what you need to do. Now, Daryl, I understand that you are in the Memphis area right now. Have you been out to some of the sites? Tell me what you've seen from your perspective. Where have you been?
I am headed up to Tipton County today. I've seen the photos. I've seen everything that's been documented. by the state, and I can tell you it looks horrible. It's devastating to people. We want to help folks stay in their communities. And part of that is through rental assistance or temporary housing assistance. If you need a place to live, let us know right now. Everybody deserves a safe, secure environment. You deserve a safe roof over your head. So let us know. We can help you with lodging expenses in hotels. We can help you with long-term, well, not long-term, but with rental assistance for apartments, including a security deposit. If you need things like tools for your job, we can help you with that. But we can't if we don't know you're there. You have to let us know.
Absolutely. I mean, that is such an important point. Now, McNairy County, Tennessee, the Adamsville area had significant damage as well. I'm sure you're well aware. 17 people died in those storms in that area. Have you had an opportunity to go out there, or is that on the agenda? Tell me what.
Well, we have FEMA folks in all of the counties right now. We also have teams that are out that are called disaster survivor assistance teams. And they want to make sure that everybody has the opportunity to apply for assistance. So these teams are going door to door in these counties. Now, their areas where they're located will change daily because they're going through neighborhoods, but they will show up. They will have FEMA gear on. They will have an official laminated federal ID with their photo on it, and they will register you right then and there on their iPads to help everybody. So if you're homebound, if you know of people that are homebound, let's say, or grandma and grandpa or your neighbors, let them know and let us know that they're out there. Let your local emergency managers know, your police, and so forth. We have to look out for each other in all of these situations. We do have people that are canvassing these counties, so don't be surprised. If they come up to you and say, hi, I'm from FEMA, and for $500, I can get you registered and we'll get you through the process, they're not from FEMA. We will never ask for money. Be careful out there. The fraudsters, the lowest of the low are out there right now. And they will try to impersonate FEMA to get your money.
Yeah, that's a great point, because we've done several stories already, Daryl, of scammers out there that are trying to scam people saying that they're from FEMA or some other emergency assistance organization. Is the staff wearing badges so that people can clearly see that they are FEMA representatives? Is there a way that people can say, okay, you're from FEMA because I see your badge?
Yes, they will be wearing badges, and the folks that are going door to door will wear FEMA equipment and FEMA gear. So whether it's a shirt that says FEMA, they may have a vest, a reflective vest that says FEMA. But the most important thing is the badge. And as time goes on, you may receive a call from FEMA wanting to schedule a home inspection. The inspectors who come out will not be in FEMA gear, but they will have a laminated federal ID. And I always tell people, this sounds kind of funny, but you know what? If somebody approaches your door, whether they claim to be an inspector or they're FEMA folks that want to help you register, take a photo of them. Everybody's phone has a camera. It's okay. We don't mind. Take a photo, say, oh, well, I feel better now. If you're not comfortable with it, that's okay. Say, I'm not comfortable, and we'll depart. So if you're a scammer, you don't want your photo taken. If you're FEMA, it's okay.
Yep, that's a great point, Daryl. And I just want to, again, let everybody know who's watching us right now that you have to make your insurance claim then contact FEMA. You have to go in that order. Then FEMA can help. You can call FEMA, 1-800-621-3362. You can go to disasterassistance.gov or download the FEMA app and get assistance there. Again, Daryl, assigned to Tennessee, West Tennessee, of course, we all know, had so much damage from those storms back on March 31st. And also, if you see someone out there with the FEMA badge, then you know they are a FEMA representative. Otherwise, not so much and not at all. Anything else, Daryl, that we can mention to our viewers with regards to your presence out here, what you and the organization's doing to help some of the victims? Anything else that we can mention before we let you go?
Well, remember that we're not an insurance company. We can't rebuild your home, but we can help you with possibly major repairs. If your home just needs certain things repaired to make it habitable, we may be able to help you with that. There's a lot of assistance out there, not just from FEMA, but also the Small Business Administration. They're on their way, and I know they're here already. But because it's a declared disaster, they can offer low-interest, long-term loans to homeowners and renters. If you're a renter that was affected, apply for FEMA as well. So low-interest, long-term loans are available for you to actually rebuild and get back on that path to recovery. We know how difficult it is. And believe me, we're going to be here as long as it takes. And as long as we work with the state, the county, your local municipalities, we all want to be in this together and get out favorably on the other end. So you're better and back into that state of normalcy.
Okay, Daryl Habush, FEMA Public Information Officer assigned to Tennessee. We really appreciate your time this morning. Thanks for spelling it out for us. As much as you can, enjoy your time in West Tennessee. I know it's a difficult task, but we got some great people here and, of course, some great places to grab some great food, too. So thanks again for coming on the Digital Desk. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
A wonderful spring day ahead as temperatures will soar toward 80 degrees this afternoon. A southwest breeze at about 10 to 15 miles per hour. All that sunshine is going to stick around again tomorrow as well. Let's show you what's happening, though. Toward the end of the week, we have a cold front that's going to move in. Ahead of it, it stays warm each afternoon for a good portion of the eastern half of the country. Scattered showers and storms, though, will develop along this front Thursday afternoon and then push east Thursday night. So we could see a strong or severe storm or two either Thursday night or again Friday evening as the main system pushes through. Behind that system, we're going to see maybe a lingering shower early Saturday morning, but much cooler air filters in just in time for the weekend. So it's going to drop pretty big time as far as those temperatures are concerned Saturday and Sunday. But we do have a slight risk for a few severe storms Thursday night and mainly in Arkansas. It's a marginal risk for parts of West Tennessee, Northwest Mississippi. Damaging wind, hail, those are the main threats as we go into Thursday night. Let's take you through the exact timing hour by hour in Futurecast. This is a closer in view, and you can see those scattered showers and storms coming through between 9 p.m. and 6 a.m. early Friday morning, and then off and on through the day Friday, especially east of Memphis. It gets a little heavier Friday night just to the east with that main line coming on through, and then finally pushes out. But I think those clouds are going to linger for much of the day on Saturday. We're talking about 1 to 2 inches of rain. So a pretty big dose of rainfall with this system, so that may be one of the bigger issues that we see. We'll keep you posted, though, as always, on the Action News 5 First Alert weather app. You can track the rain and thunderstorms on the radar throughout the day Thursday and Friday. As we go into the weekend, we're looking at temperatures dropping into the 60s, so almost a 20-degree drop in temperatures for the weekend. Some sun may finally pop out on Sunday, but Saturday looks awfully cool. In fact, that high may actually only hit the upper 50s to low 60s. And as we take a look at the First Alert 7-day forecast, we've got that 80% chance for showers and thunderstorms on Friday, and then next week we'll start to warm up again as we head toward Monday.
Okay, we have heard a lot about the FTX founder charged in a scheme to defraud crypto investors. Federal prosecutors have alleged he intentionally deceived customers and investors to enrich himself and others while playing a central role in FTX's multi-billion-dollar scheme. We're talking about Sam Bankman-Fried, a Democrat super donor and the founder of XTX. What does this mean for investors? What does this mean for crypto investors? Is crypto dead? Well, let's bring in Alex McCurry. He is CEO of Solidity.io. Alex, is crypto investment dead? If not, why not?
Crypto investment is very much not dead. I think that what FTX is a prime example of lack of regulation in centralized exchanges, decentralized finance, crypto protocols. The type of technology that we're talking about here is very much so alive and very much so unaffected by FTX. But unfortunately, scammers and fraudsters who are misappropriating funds are going to have a lot more difficulty now with stricter regulation.
So, Alex, tell me what Solidity.io is, first off. Do you deal with crypto investments all the time?
Yeah, so Solidity.io is a Web3 solutions firm. We build full stack software products on the blockchain. We also have a venture studio. So we're constantly building software solutions that are built around crypto and built around blockchain technology. So we see a lot of the sort of technology and the sort of strategies that are used across the industry. And so it gives us a lot of visibility to the types of things that, the types of mechanisms that are used in a positive way in the industry, and also the types of mechanisms that can be used in a very negative way. A good example of sort of the technology being used in a negative way, which I think is a good way to sum up what was done by SBF and by FTX, was with the creation of essentially manufactured fake tokens, and using those fake tokens, those manufactured tokens, and leveraging those against their balance sheet as collateral to essentially borrow and take user deposits. We've seen a lot of different tokens created over the last years. Thousands and thousands of tokens have been spun up. You can create an ERC20 token very, very easily if you'd like to create one. And essentially what SBF did is he leveraged FTX's name and FTX's ability to partner with other sort of protocols and technology startups to launch tokens that had inherently very little value or little to zero liquidity, and then use those tokens on their balance sheet to represent collateral for the user deposits that they were receiving in the centralized exchange, taking that real money out, that real Bitcoin, Ethereum, US dollar pegged assets as well, and taking those funds and misappropriating them and gambling with them.
Okay, so Alex, full disclosure, I do have some crypto investments, been looking at it, been investing, namely Bitcoin, Ethereum, a few others, and I see that it's taken a big hit over the last 12 to 18 months. So can you clear up for our viewers out there, what this collapse means of FTX? Does this really hurt investments long term? I mean, from a perspective of a crypto investor, when are we going to see those crypto investments creep back up again, if at all?
The crypto market is very difficult to predict. I think that it is going to be affected by the macroeconomic conditions. I think you're not able to necessarily predict when things are going to come back. And that's really the biggest sort of thing to remember. You're investing in technology, you're investing in the network, you're investing in these underlying protocols, and you're investing in the belief that digital assets and blockchain and privacy and sovereignty over your assets and the ability to transact across the globe instantly, securely, is technology that people will deem valuable over time, right? That is really the principal sort of basis of investing in digital assets, investing in Bitcoin, investing in Ethereum, investing in sort of those blue chip protocols. And so really your time horizon needs to be much longer. You need to be looking at Bitcoin. You need to be looking at these assets much more like an investment in the early days of the internet or in social media, really life-altering technologies that take time to mature, but ultimately have enough value and have enough potential to be adopted within the broader market to accrue massive amounts of value over time.
So let me ask you this, because you mentioned that it's very unpredictable right now of where the crypto market is going. I mean, wouldn't that scare investors right now? I mean, I don't want to invest in anything unpredictable. I mean, you know, there's so many risks involved.
There's certainly risks, and it's certainly unpredictable in the near term, right? If you're talking about a short time horizon, then you know that's definitely something you need to consider. But if you're looking on a longer time horizon, you're looking at these assets over a long period of time and the value that they bring and the disruption that the technology brings to all of the different sectors that it really is changing, then that's really where you want to be looking if you're trying to accrue value over a longer period of time. So for myself and for others that I know that, you know, their opinions that I respect, their strategy is accumulate these assets at whatever rate you're comfortable with, do it over time, do it while the market is you know, do it when things like FTX happen, right? And the reason for that is because when you have companies like FTX, who are centralized exchanges, centralized authorities, who are basically just a prime example of misallocation of capital by investors and essentially poor management of capital, whether malicious or unintentional, those are not examples of deficiencies in the underlying technology whatsoever. Those are that's poor capital management, and that's fraud. And so that is actually a prime example of an opportunity to accumulate these assets at a discount because of broader concerns around the industry, but has no bearing or no underlying effects on Bitcoin or on the underlying technology.
So let me ask you this, Alex, before we let you go. What do you want people to know about crypto investments with regards to what happened at FTX going into 2023?
I think that crypto investments more broadly are really they're a risk class, they're a risk investment, but you're investing in the underlying technology of what you are, what you believe in, right? And so you need to identify the opportunity within the technology. You need to be comfortable with the risk, and you need to understand why you're investing in it. And so education is really important. Understanding the underlying technology, the underlying principles of why you think it's going to be adopted, why you think it's going to be useful, is much more important than staring at the day-to-day price and looking at, you know, sort of these high-profile news events. You know, stay focused on the technology, stay focused on the impact, stay focused on the market opportunity, and you'll be fine.
Okay, Alex McCurry of Solidity.io. We appreciate your time and appreciate the breakdown of crypto investments. Thanks very much.
Amanda Hansen here at the Action News 5 Digital Desk. Well, the Methodist Cancer Institute recently opened Gilda's Club on the campus of Methodist University Hospital. Now, if you're not familiar with Gilda's Club, it is a national support and resource program for cancer patients and their families. And joining us now to tell us more about this is Lakeisha Heron. She is the manager of support services with the Methodist Cancer Institute. Good morning. How you doing? I'm not sure if you're muted. I can't hear you.
Good morning. I'm great. How are you today?
I'm doing really good. I'm glad to have you on. And I know that this is Gilda's Club goes back to the Saturday Night Live cast member Gilda Radner that passed away from ovarian cancer back in 1989. I remember I actually have her Best of SNL DVD that I've watched, so I'm familiar with Gilda Radner. But let's talk about Gilda's Club and what it's all about.
Yes, well, Gilda's Club is a community organization for people with cancer, their families and friends. At Methodist Cancer Institute, we're able to provide a place where all of those who are impacted by cancer are able to join together and build an emotional and supportive environment for each other as a supplement to their medical care.
So let's talk about why it's so important to have something like Gilda's Club available for patients when they're dealing, and their families when they're dealing with something like this, because it's an emotional roller coaster, it seems, when you're dealing with something like that.
Exactly. You know, being diagnosed with cancer can be anxiety provoking for the patient as well as the caregiver. And to be able to offer a service such as Gilda's Club, it provides a safe and supportive environment for the patients, caregivers, and family members to just express their journey amongst each other without feeling isolated. And they're also able to kind of obtain information from each other as, you know, how to cope with different treatments or side effects. They're able to get that support from each other. So it's a great opportunity for the patients as well as the caregivers to just support each other.
So tell us about some of the resources and programming that's offered through Gilda's Club.
Well, we have a variety of professionally led programs, and they're designed to help the patient and their family members and caregivers, and it's for anybody that's affected by that cancer diagnosis. They range from educational groups, supportive counseling groups, as well as yoga. We've also done some financial literacy and financial counseling groups for cost of care as it relates to the cancer diagnosis.
And this is something that's available for any cancer patient, correct? They don't have to be someone that's maybe getting treated at Methodist. Is that right?
Exactly. That's the beautiful thing about this, is that you don't have to be a patient at Methodist Cancer Institute to receive these services. And it's also not just for patients, it's for the caregiver as well as any family members. And it's free of charge.
That's amazing, and it's a great resource for people. And like you said, it's even a way to kind of have that support, talk to other people that are maybe dealing with the same thing as you. Can you elaborate that on a little bit more about why these sort of things are so pivotal when it comes to treatment? Because, you know, I've done a lot of stories specifically with breast cancer patients, and for them, having their outlook mattered in terms of how they recovered. And so Is this one of those resources that kind of helps to kind of play along with that storyline of just having that positive attitude and keeping motivated to continue with that treatment?
Exactly, definitely is. You know, a lot of times when patients receive that new diagnosis, we're often so focused on treating the cancer that we tend to neglect the emotional needs of the patient. So you're definitely right to be able to address some of those emotional needs, whether it be self-image, the side effects, the change of life that might happen. Those things do affect their progression with their treatment. So this offering that we have, it's wonderful to be able to provide the service.
Lakeisha, I really appreciated having you on here. Where can people go if they want to find out more about Gilda's Club and where they can find more information about it?
Well, we have a monthly calendar, and if you'd like more information regarding our programming, you can email Lakeisha, LAKESHA, .Herron, HERRON, @MLH.org for more information.
All right. Well, Lakeisha, we appreciate your time this morning. You have a great weekend, okay?
Thank you. You too.
I want to show you right now, the American Humane Group has been on the ground in the Memphis area for the past week due to the overwhelming volume of animals that have been displaced after the storms hit March 31st. The DeSoto County Animal Shelter has called in American Humane for emergency assistance. The shelter has been operating at 200% of the capacity due to the influx of animals. So American Humane arrived to help the shelter operate at emergency capacity, setting up temporary housing, crates, kennels, and pens to accommodate some of the animals there. And for the past week, American Humane has helped care for approximately 110 animals who have been either injured, as I mentioned, displaced, or separated from their owners during the storm. American Humane has the team on the ground that's provided a number of important services there. I want to bring in right now the president and CEO of American Humane, Robert Ganser. She is joining us on the digital desk right now to talk more about what the organization is doing in Tipton County in West Tennessee to help some of the animals. Robin, good morning for joining. Thank you for joining us this morning. Tell me about the team that's on the ground here in the Memphis area, and have you been in contact with them, and what are they telling you?
Absolutely, Andrew. Thank you so much. First of all, our team's on the ground. We're proud to be in Tipton County today, actually providing emergency relief services for these animals in crisis. These animals have been terribly impacted by the storms. They're looking for their family members to be reunited. Some have been needed emergency medical care, which is very important. But frankly, they've all needed a lot of extra TLC because storms, while they're scary for us humans, they're also quite scary for our animal friends.
You know, Robin, I know that the shelters, a lot of them across our area, are already at capacity because it's puppy and kitten season. How much has this storm really put a strain on some of those shelters? I know there was something that said it was 200% capacity right now in Tipton County alone.
Yes, and 200% capacity that's dangerous levels when you have that many animals that need time, attention, and care. And keep in mind, people locally have also been personally impacted. So you have shelter volunteers and employees who are also impacted by the storms. They have their own needs at home. So that's why American Humane sends our very best, our trained animal first responders to take over those duties to provide a relief valve for these shelters who are operating at such high capacity. Not only is it puppy and kitten season, but you also have animals who have been really lost in these storms who need to be reunited with their family members. So it is dangerous times, but our teams go on the ground. They provide emergency veterinarian care, which is important, a lot of animal enrichment. They've also been able to transport animals to other rescue groups and shelter groups across our great country, to especially those that were identified as stray animals, so they can find a forever loving home. Again, reducing the capacity needs on our local shelters who have been facing so much because of this season of storms.
How many team members are here on the ground? How long are they expected to be here? And we have thousands of people that watch us each and every morning on this streaming channel. Robin, what could they do to help the situation?
Absolutely. Well, we're also, our volunteers and our first responders are also providing pet food emergency drives too. So those who have been impacted by the storms are getting free pet food, free supplies, which is a very important part of our work. So for those listening and watching on today's show, importantly, you can visit AmericanHumane.org to provide for emergency relief funding for our incredible volunteers and staff on the ground. You can also donate at Tipton County Animal Shelter to provide for emergency food and supplies. And, you know, if you're interested, if your heart is open to becoming one of our emergency first responders, sign up for one of our training courses so you can be trained in being one of our humane heroes who go actually out and deploy in times of natural disasters and provide this emergency care. It's an incredible program for those of us who love animals. We need more volunteers who can go at a moment's notice to help our communities and neighbors in crisis.
For all those responsible pet owners out there, what can they do to kind of prepare for these type of things? I know that they're trying to figure out, okay, what can I do so that if there is another storm, God forbid, that they can, be just prepared for anything.
Well, we can count on there being another storm. We're just beginning the season of storms. And I'm here today from my home in Florida. We're gearing up always for the season of storms. What you need to prepare for today, and do not delay, we should all have our pet emergency preparation kit. And in that, we should have a mobile crate or carrier for our animals, big enough for them to stand up and turn around. You need to make sure you have 2 weeks of pet food and supplies, their medication on hand. You always need to make sure your pet has a secure collar with ID tags, and importantly, make sure you have your veterinarian records with you. I always tell all pet parents, never, ever, ever evacuate your home without your pet. Take them with you. They are part of our families, and we never want them to be separated, particularly in a time of crisis. But your pet disaster preparation kit is needed today. Be prepared with that so you could run out with a moment's notice with food, water, medical supplies, photos of your current pet, ID tags, and the like.
There's a lot that we have mentioned here, Robin. Where can people go to get some more information, just some bullet points of what they can do?
Visit AmericanHumane.org. We always keep our blogs up to date on what pet parents can and should be doing in terms of the season of storms. So do visit AmericanHumane.org and stay in touch. And also be on the lookout for American Humane trucks. Our volunteers and our rescue trailers were on the ground all season long, particularly in the season of storms. Wave at them, give them your support as they go by to help all of our communities in crisis. They really are the humane heroes this very day.
President and CEO of American Humane, Robin Ganzert, we really appreciate you breaking down some of the facts and figures, safety checklists for pet owners out there, and what people can do to just prepare for any kind of emergency. And thank you so much for what your organization is doing in the Memphis area right now with some of those displaced pets. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Good morning, everyone. Andrew Douglas in the Action News 5 digital desk. I want to tell you about some new research that finds nearly half of American workers, okay, so we're talking nearly half, would leave their company if offered 3 months of severance. Okay, this is a Career Optimism Index study that was released just a few weeks ago. I got John Woods on the line here at the Action News 5 digital desk. He is the Chief Academic Officer, University of Phoenix, Executive Director, University of Phoenix Career Institute, to discuss the findings. John, good morning. The first time I heard about this new research, I thought, wait a second. Half of workers would leave their job with just 3 months severance? Don't they have bills to pay? Don't they know that, economic conditions aren't the greatest right now? How did you see these numbers?
Yeah, it's a really interesting statistic, especially since we also found in the survey that a lot of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck. So for the exact reason you mentioned, really surprising. A lot of people are also looking or say they're going to be looking for a new job. So a majority of the survey respondents said they're currently scanning the market for a new job or plan to do so in the near term. And in spite of those statistics, as the name of the survey would indicate, Americans are super confident, optimistic about their career and career prospects. So a lot of interesting information for both employers to be aware of, as well as employees.
I mean, John, I saw a report yesterday, I think it was CNBC, that said everything looks like we are heading into a recession, or a recession is going to happen sometime later this year. I don't know what kind of information half of American workers are seeing where they feel very optimistic that in 3 months they'll be able to find a job. I mean, the bills don't stop after 3 months. Can you tell me what the key drivers are with this optimism that they're having?
Yeah, it's as if American workers have sort of a free agent mentality. They're optimistic that they could get another position if they had to. They feel ready to do a job search if needed. They feel like they either have the skills or could attain the skills to get a different job. This optimism that they have is really coming from themselves more than it's coming from anything employers are doing for them. In fact, there's a dissatisfaction with what employers are doing. So if employers are concerned about turnover, and nearly 75% say they are in the survey, there's some things they need to be doing to better engage their workers and to have a better chance of keeping them.
Yeah, so John, it's interesting, not only in my profession, but across the board, I think you probably have seen it, that a lot of employers are having a hard time keeping talent in-house, and we're just seeing that everywhere. In your best guess, and perhaps maybe this survey gave you some key indications, but what can employers do to retain some of that top talent that they have working for them?
Yeah, turnover is costly. Having open positions is certainly costly. Always having to onboard and train new people is costly. And so proactively, you want to try and keep as many of your people as you can. And the survey indicates that about 70% of workers would stay if some things changed, if employers did some things to try and keep them. And the top three things they indicate, the first is training and development opportunities so that they could upskill, maybe obtain new skills to do additional things for the organization, to get ahead within the organization, maybe tuition reimbursement programs. The second thing is if an organization could deliver for employees a mentorship program. So assigning employees to a formal mentor who could help with career planning, career pathing, kind of take a strategic approach to each employee's growth and development. And the third one is around employee engagement programs, things like employee resource groups, things like mental health benefits. These are the sorts of things that employers are needing to provide if they want to keep their employees engaged, happy, and less likely to leave.
Interesting. I like that list of three there. Let's talk about this, the half of Americans out there who would leave after a 3-month severance from their employer. How can employees prepare themselves for their next career move? Let's talk about that.
Yeah, I think ask your current employer or a prospective employer if they offer training, development, upskilling, further education programs, if they have benefits that support those. And then networking is a big one. And then within the networking realm, try and find somebody who could be a mentor. That person can be someone who has the job that you want one day, or has maybe had it and progressed even further in their career. And that person can really help make introductions to other people, provide guidance, suggestions, support. So I think that sort of spells out an always-on approach to thinking proactively about one's career. What are the skills needed? Who do you need to know? Is there somebody who could formally become a mentor and help you along the way? That's kind of the recipe.
John, this is an interesting conversation. Is there any maybe tidbit that we missed that you think is relevant to what we're talking about?
Yeah, I think it's that caution for employers that workers these days more than ever see themselves as free agents. And the cost of turnover are certainly everyone's aware that those are huge, have huge implications for businesses. So the things they're already doing need to be better communicated, or otherwise they're wasted expenses, wasted efforts. And if they're not doing those things, they're going to see turnover because employers are, as the survey indicates, employees are willing and ready to walk, and they are free agents. So, pay attention to the things that workers are asking for. You'll keep more of them and keep them more happy and productive.
Got it. Okay. We have thousands of people that watch us each and every day here on the Digital Desk, John. Any place that they can go online and kind of hear and look and maybe listen to some of the numbers that we've been talking about and some of the employees' attitudes and employers' attitudes as well?
Yeah, a lot of great insights in this set of data, and the entire survey and all the results and the really making sense of the results. We've placed all that on our website at phoenix.edu/career-institute. I encourage folks to go check that out, whether you're an employer, hoping to kind of fix this issue, keep more of your people, or whether you're an employee and you're thinking about your career and career prospects.
Chief Academic Officer, University of Phoenix, Executive Director, University of Phoenix Career Institute, John Woods. We appreciate this conversation. Very informative this morning. Thank you.
Thanks so much.
You know, right now there are college graduates getting ready to get the cap and gown and to go out in the real world and to face the real world and look for that first job. Well, there has been a book that's been written about fast start tips, ways to help job seekers launch a career, get noticed, and achieve early success. And I have the author right now about to join us here on the Action News 5 digital desk to talk about what's in the book and ways that people can fast start their career. I'm joined right now by Fred Sievert. He is a former president of New York Life Insurance Company who wrote this book. Mr. Sievert, good morning to you. I appreciate you joining us. Tell us about the book and why you decided to write it.
Yeah, good morning, Andrew. Thanks for having me on. Well, the genesis of this book, I had already written a couple of books, but this one, my daughter came to me as I was still president of New York Life Insurance Company, and she said she was in a low-level entry position at a big global cosmetics firm. And she said, you know, Dad, this is getting kind of boring and monotonous, and I'd like you to give me some tips on how I might get noticed in advance, make a real career out of this. So I thought long and hard about how I might notice someone deeper in the organization at New York Life, came up with 5 tips that I gave my daughter. She implemented them well. And over the course of just a couple of years, she took on more and more responsibility and several promotions. Then, you know, as a result of that, I used those 5 tips in 3 commencement addresses I had made and got a lot of rave reviews and feedback from that. And I ended up writing a short article, and my agent saw the article and said, you know, Fred, you've got another book here. And I said to myself, well, I thought I really hadn't thought about that very much, but, you know, you may have a point. And so I went ahead and expanded it to 10 tips and then wrote the book. And frankly, the initial audience for the book, most publishers ask you to target a relatively small, narrow audience. My initial audience was for Christian college students graduating from college. And it actually will make a great gift. I'm so glad I'm on your show this time of the year before the commencement period. But anyway, what happened is there was this massive expansion in the market, because originally subtitle was going to be advice on entering the workforce for the first time. And then I thought about it and I said to myself, you know, there are adults coming back from child rearing years. There are military veterans coming back to take on a new role. So I changed the subtitle to entering or re-entering the workforce. And it even expanded beyond that, because it was published, you know, near the end of COVID. And so many people were reimagining their future and re-entering the workforce after a COVID furlough that it became a very huge market at that point. And then I will say, Andrew, it even expanded more, and none of this was intentional. I think it was providential, but it even expanded more if you were to go on Amazon.com and read the reviews that are up there for this book, you'd find a good number of them, maybe half or more, say this book is not just for Christians because of the great value of the business advice. So that was the genesis of it. And, you know, it's doing very well. And I'm pleased to have a chance to talk about it here on your show.
Yeah, I appreciate you being here and just kind of giving us an overview. If you were to boil it down to maybe a few sentences, because I think that anyone who talks about ways to get ahead or ways to stand out in a positive way or ways to be high achievers in today's world, I think that always is attractive to a lot of different generations out there, whether they're just entering the workforce or re-entering the workforce. If you had to boil it down to a few sentences, Fred, what would be those few sentences that your book really hones in on? Maybe some underlying themes.
Yeah, first of all, the advice given is very practical. And I get a lot of feedback on that applying the principles here really do work. And over the course of my career, I mentored over a dozen people who ultimately became CEOs or presidents of their organizations. So it has proven success. There's no question about that. But it zeroes in on, I'll just mention the 4 or 5 most popular chapters in the book. One was one of the biblical, there's 5 chapters on biblical principles in the workforce, and then there's 10 chapters on these fast starting your career tips. One of the ones on in the biblical principles, which caught a lot of interest, was a chapter that says, make Jesus as a business partner. Then in the other tips, the couple that were among the top 5 I gave to my daughter, which got expanded to 10. One was embracing the company's mission. And I told her at the time, I'd like you to memorize the company's mission so you could recite it. And she said to me, Dad, do you really want me walking around reciting the mission? And I said, no. I said, in fact, I don't want you to do that because you might appear arrogant, and arrogance is the biggest career blocker there is. But I want you to recite it so you can, memorize it so you can recite it, because it'll be embedded in your brain, and you can then judge and look at various decisions you're making to make sure they're consistent with the mission of the organization. And it's critically important for organizations to their actions to align with their mission. Another one that was very popular, maybe the most popular chapter, was one called, the title was Understanding the Underlying Financial Fundamentals of the Business. And my daughter never had any classes in economics, finance, accounting. So she was kind of petrified by that one, But I said, I'm going to give you some really simple ways as someone deep in the organization to get an understanding that very, very few people, even at high levels in the organization, will have. And this will differentiate you. You will be noticed because of your look at the numbers. Another one of the chapters that got a lot of attention was the very final one in the book, called Balancing Faith, Family, and Career. Because I think in the intensity of the work environment right now, so many people struggle with that, in making that balance. I remember early in my career, I kind of thought on Sundays I was a Christian, Mondays through Fridays I was an employee, and on Saturdays I was a husband and a spouse or a father. And, I came to learn pretty quickly that I was all of those things all of the time. And for that reason, I wrote this book, because it integrates the 5 chapters on faith and the 10 chapters on business tips, integrates them together. So the biblical principles chapters have examples of how I applied them at work. And the fast tip chapters talk about the biblical support for the kinds of things I was recommending.
I just want to make sure our audience knows that, because there's thousands of people that watch us each and every day, the title of your book, Fast Starting a Career of Consequence, Practical, Christ-Centered Advice for Entering or Re-entering the Workforce. You told me that the book appeals to so many people of faith and people who aren't necessarily all that spiritual. Why do you think it has this broad appeal?
Well, I really think because of the tips that stand on their own and have been very successful. And there's a lot of detail around things like making every performance, every presentation a command performance is one of the chapters. Over preparing for every meeting is another chapter. And I give many examples. Another one that was popular is take charge of your own development. And that's popular because in today's environment, there's a lot of pressure on making profits and say cutting expenses. And so you can't assume that your boss or your superiors are going to take charge of your development. So you need to do it yourself. And I gave several examples of ways in which people could do that. So it's really actionable. It's very actionable. And in fact, there's a companion workbook that's a bit shorter, not as much reading, but it goes through in detail and provides exercises for people to follow to implement, those tips.
With today's work climate, and you've mentioned it several times, what is the biggest mistake that you see with people entering the workforce nowadays? Is there something that's so glaring that you just kind of want to yell through the mountaintop, hey, you're doing this all wrong?
Yeah, well, when I started to observe people at New York Life, in answer to my daughter's question, one of the things, and New York Life's a huge company, 65,000 agents and employees. But this book applies to small companies, even entrepreneurial startups. But one of the things I noticed pretty quickly was people who were sort of coming in right at the opening bell or late to work and leaving early. And I said, there's a real simple way to demonstrate your commitment, which is another chapter in the book, demonstrate your commitment to the company. And that is, come in early and leave late occasionally, and you'll get noticed. You'll get noticed for doing that. But there are a whole bunch of other ways to differentiate yourself. But I think that's a mistake. I think as people advance in an organization, and I found this to be the case even at a very high level at New York Life, people reporting to me, they didn't understand the financials, so they weren't going to go any higher. And that's why I said that one chapter was so popular. But also, in addition to not understanding the financials, they didn't know how to think strategically. This is really big. In fact, in my view, this was the most impactful chapter in the book, which was finding ways to demonstrate strategic thinking capability. And I really lay this out in a way that asks questions. If someone's already working or about to go into a job, they can read that chapter, and it lists about 8 or 10 questions one can ask that can help you focus on strategy and the difference between strategy and tactics, because strategy was originally a war term, on how do you defeat the enemy. And I think in business, the analog is strategy is about beating the competition. So one must get an understanding of the competition. And for someone at a low level, entry level in the organization, that's pretty easy to do. If you read the strategic plan, you'll understand who the competitors are. I tell in the book, I even say you might do some mystery shopping if you can afford it. You won't be able to afford it in the automotive business, but in other businesses, you can buy the competitors' products and compare them against your own company's products and start to ask questions. Are we meeting the demands of the market? Are there ways in which these products could be improved? So that chapter, in my view, like I said, was probably the most impactful. It may not be something that everyone at a low level is going to benefit from immediately, but to demonstrate strategic thinking, extremely important.
We have tens of thousands of college graduates about to graduate from school, look for a job, perhaps enter the workforce. If you had one piece of advice that you'd like to give to all of them, what would it be?
Well, I think early on, as they're looking for a job and they're interviewing, I would say the chapter on memorizing the mission statement is very important, because if you go in and preparing for the interview, understanding the company, memorize the mission statement, don't recite it. Like I said, don't recite it, but indicate you're aware of the mission of the company. And if it's true, you can say you have a passion for that mission. I wouldn't lie about it, but if you have a passion for the mission, this is going to help you immensely in the interview process.
He is the former president of New York Life Insurance Company, Fred Sievert. We really appreciate this discussion. Thanks so much for talking with us, and best of luck to you in retirement and all that you do.
Thank you very much, Andrew. Appreciate being on.
It's bright and sunshiny. You know what else is bright and sunshiny? Talisa Franklin. She is with us with WAVN The Trend. She is joining us.
Hello there. Well, I tell you, my world is always great right here in the 901. Listen, on this weekend, y'all, there's so many great things happening this weekend. Oh my God, there's nothing like the Bluff City. So there is a tea and conversation that is happening and hosted by the great MPD. Austin Peay Station presents a tea and conversation. Listen, it's going to be free food and information and conversations. And it just makes us feel good to see the positive impact that Memphis Police Department, Austin Peay Station, and so many others, but especially right now, Austin Peay Station is doing in the community, because it's going to allow the community to understand that the police is not only just to enforce the law, but they're to encourage you and to let you know that they care. We know all the great, the bad things so much looks like is going on, but there's greater things that's going on in Memphis. And just shout out to MPD. Listen, I'm grateful that we could not live in the city without you. And so if you are in the Fraser area, the Raleigh area, Ed Rice Community Centers, where all roads will lead to, right? For the tea and conversation. Put on your dresses, your shirts, your suits, and your hats, and get all cute and handsome for free food, games, and entertainment. Listen, if you know that you want to attend, it's absolutely free. Listen, just reach out to Officer Naylor as ASAP. I know it says April 15, but if I know how the MPD works, they will compensate you and make sure that you get there, because we really, really want to impact our community with great positive things. And then, y'all, this weekend, shout out to the beautiful, I was called Miss AC and Dr. AC, y'all. African April. African April has been a staple here in our city. And this year, they are celebrating 36 years of doing Cultural Awareness Festival. And listen, this Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, it all happens right here in the Mid-South. Listen, Friday, Dr. AC and Lady AC make sure we have so many great things going on. So Friday is always dedicated to our children and our seniors. It happens at Robert R. Church Park. Then there's a parade that goes on. So like at 10 o'clock that morning, Friday, all roads are there from 10 o'clock that morning to 11 o'clock that night. You can go to African April and have an amazing, great time. And then Saturday is the Health and Wellness Day. Happens again all day from 8 a.m. to 10:30. Yes, it's going to be great. And then Sunday is the International Music Day, where they are honoring Rwanda. And it's going to be at Robert R. Church Park from 8 a.m. to 9 p.m. It's always a great turnout. Memphis does an amazing job of supporting the ACEs. They are a staple in this community, and I'm always honored because a lot of times people say, I don't do African April. I do Juneteenth, but the ACEs does the African April. But what makes me feel good that we're all friends and we work together and we have conversations on how that we both can continue to build great cultural events right here in our city. So this weekend, y'all know all roads lead to support Dr. AC and Yvonne AC, African April's 36th year anniversary, celebrating Rwanda. It's going to be a great weekend. And so do something for yourself, do something for your fellow man or woman, and let's just have a good time.
You are awesome, Talisa. God bless you and everything that you do each and every day. Thanks so much.
All right. Thank you, brother. Have a good one.